Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world. Pull up a chair. It's time to get down to the business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. Glad to be with you all here this evening as we bring you another edition of a business exclusive. And that, of course, would be the Six Figure Men's Club, DC, where we sit down and talk to men who are making six figures or more in their city, and we get their insights on the women, the money, the life, where they are at. On the phone with me right now are two brothers in particular. I've got Ty and I've got Trey on the line. I would like to welcome you both to the business. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, awesome.
All right, now what we're going to do here tonight, and no, people, these are not their actual images. You're going to have to pay me extra to get that. But what I want to do here is we're going to get their insights on what it's like to be where they are, because there are a lot of people who try to speak for black men who live at a certain level. They try to speak for black men who have achieved a certain level of success. And instead of us listening to other people try to tell you what it is that they think, I go to these places so you can hear them say what they think. We did have some other people who were supposed to join us, but apparently because of either the uprising in DC, which I'll be covering on my other channel this weekend, not tonight, but either because of that or other reasons, they were not joining us here tonight. But that's perfectly fine because we're going to be stacked here anyway. So first and foremost here, I want to ask here on the line right now, let me find out from Ty, how long you've been living in D. How old are you? How long you've been living in DC, and what do you think of being up there?
Hey, I am 31. I've been out here since 2012. I like the area. It's a lot to do, a lot to see. It's pretty small. You start seeing some of the same people. Sometimes you got enough. Some of the stuff does get old every once in a while, but I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out here. It is a grind though. It's a grind, and it does get, start to wear on you over time.
And how old are you?
I'm 31.
All right, Ty is 31 years old. Trey, how old are you? How long have you lived up there?
I'm 44. I'm born and raised there.
And what do you think of living in D.C. after 4 decades?
I mean, it's home. I've lived all over the world, seen a lot, and I mean, it's really nothing like it. The culture, to the women, the opportunities. It's a wonderful area.
All right, well, that's exactly what I want to get into here. Now, the both of you are in the Six Figure Men's Club. I won't be precise about that, but everybody just needs to know to be there, you're going to have to make at least $100,000 a year or more. And let me just address that right quick, because that's something in particular that I want to deal with before anybody attempts to call themselves trying to sound or be a lot smarter, a lot wiser, or a lot more accomplished than they really are, as far as people attempting to characterize what that means. You all have to understand that even for where you are right there, for those who don't know about DC and whatnot, yes, there is the Capital District, but then again, everybody doesn't live down there. It's actually not a gigantic piece of it. Most of it is outside of it. So it's not like people are living at the Capitol building, except for Trump's people right now. They're apparently living there. But everybody else doesn't get to do that. So you're going to have to actually be in a real place out there. It is not a cheap place to be. But I want you to understand something. The median income of America is $50,000 a year. To be in the top 25%, the top 25%, not the top 50, not the top 30, the top 25%, in that top quarter, you have to make $140,000 a year or more to be in the top 25%. That's certainly not minimum wage. Absolutely not anywhere near that. So what I'm saying is to even be in the top 25%, if you don't make at least a little over $100,000, you can't even be in the top 25%. But do you also understand what that means? That also means that you are excluded from at least 75% of everything that's going on in DC, at least. So what I want to do here first and foremost, especially as a black person in DC, because you all have to understand, before Marion Barry, I believe, before Marion Barry, DC's fate was decided by the United States Congress. Don Peebles covered this in our documentary 7 a.m., by the way, if you didn't see that. Before the 1970s, DC's fate was decided by the other states. And then DC got a mayor, and now they're trying to go for statehood, which we'll see how that goes. But understand, as black folk have been historically marginalized there and kept out, and for reason. So when you hear somebody say that they are able to do 2 or 3 times the median income of America in DC, that's not a small feat. So let me ask you fellas first and foremost, are there a bunch of entry-level jobs in Washington, D.C. that are paying people $100,000? Ty, I'm going to come to Trey here in just a moment. But Ty, you're 31 years old. You'll be the youngest one there. You tell me, are there a bunch of entry-level jobs in D.C. that are paying $100,000 a year or more?
I did not see any. I'm gonna have to say no, but I don't think so, man. I could not think of what you'd be doing where you make 6 figures right off the bat.
And that's a good point. The point I want to make about that is, okay, because you hear people say how much money you need to live there, and they're right. You do need a certain amount of money to live there, but just because you need a certain amount of money doesn't mean you can get it. That's the problem. Just because you need a certain amount of money to live in a certain place doesn't mean you can actually receive it. Let me ask my man Trey here. Trey, you've been living up there your entire life. You're middle-aged now. Can you tell me about the entry-level jobs in D.C. that pay $100,000 a year?
Nah, other than maybe tech and IT, and that's even a long shot. That's with experience. No, not entry level. No.
Okay. So what you're saying is that even though a person might need to make a certain amount of income to live in DC, and people can talk about how expensive it is, just because you need it doesn't mean you can actually get it. Am I mischaracterizing that?
Not at all.
All right. We got 2 black men who are within 10 years of each other in age. Not exactly peers, but certainly at the level of attainment that you have here. I want to ask you a question. And I know this is completely anecdotal, but that's perfectly fine. I want to ask Trey first. Trey, can you tell me just your estimation based on what you've seen? What percentage of black men in DC would you say are operating at your level?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'd say maybe 25%.
That sounds familiar. All right, and let me ask Ty, 31 years old, as a up-and-coming young black man in D.C., can you tell me, in your opinion, which I know is subjective, but in your opinion, based on what you've seen, what percentage of black men who live in D.C. would you say are making the type of money you're making or living at the type of standard of living that you have with the income that you have in D.C.?
I would say about probably 20%. Mine's maybe a little higher. It's a bit skewed because the groups I hang out with are kind of in the same boat. So it's hard to say, but maybe what Trey said, like 25%.
Now that might sound generous, but it's actually not. Because what that really means is that 75% of the individuals, the black men who live there, 3 out of 4 are, for lack of a better term, probably struggling, or at least they're not going to be capable of a whole lot of extra influence, disposable income, so on and so forth. So let me ask you on the line right now. I want to start with Ty, since you're the youngest. Can you let everybody know what is your situation as far as, are you single? Do you have any kids?
I am married. I've been married for 2 years. I have a son, a 2-year-old, and I have another one on the way, apparently.
All right. Well, he said apparently. I hope we're not breaking news here tonight. All right.
No.
And
No.
Trey,
No.
you are 41 years old here. Let me find out here, just for everybody's enlightenment about this. Are you married? Are you single? Do you have any kids?
Yes, I'm married with 2 children.
And that's something in particular I want to get to here, because you guys, of course, you are aware that the other narrative that's written is that you don't have eligible black men who are making that type of money or have that type of level of affluence and whatnot, that they're just not available. The women are constantly yelling and crying about that. So I wanted to get it from you guys here. Both of you are married. Both of you got families. Was it hard for you to find the women that you did? Let me start with Trey first.
No, it wasn't difficult at all. Well, I met my wife when she was in undergrad, I was in grad school, so we just maintained a relationship, and then I groomed her into the woman that I needed to be along my side.
Oh, so you didn't just meet her recently?
Nah, I've been married 10 years. We knew each other for 5 years prior to that, and yeah, that was it.
All right. And for Trey, for your wife, how long have you known her, and was it hard for you to meet her?
That might be Ty.
Oh, yeah. You talking to me, right?
I'm sorry. If I said Trey, I meant Ty. Yes, Ty, I'm talking to you.
Oh, yeah. No problem. I've known her for 6 years now. And, I mean, I met her on a golf course. So that was like, it wasn't, nothing crazy. Just, hit it off from there.
I told you all about the golf course to my caller who called in a few weeks ago. Might have been during the last Six Figure Men's Club. I advised you all, ladies, about the golf course. Y'all are sitting up here in your yoga classes. There are no heterosexual men there. By the way, I wanted to just tell them about that. Now, Ty, can you just level with us? How in the hell? You're 31 years old now. What were you trying to be, Tiger Woods or something? You were, 25? What were you doing at the golf club at 25 years old? Were you a caddy? Did you work there? What were you doing there?
No, it was a charity golf event, and I was there just participating, supporting like the veterans.
And you met the woman who would become your wife at that event.
Yeah, we were in the same group. It was a foursome, and we were in the same cart, and yeah.
Oh, it was a foursome. Let's not say it like that. It was a quartet.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
It was a group of 4.
Well, if it was Atlanta, I guess I'd be a little bit more worried about that statement. But it's D.C. I guess they ain't that far gone yet, but your mayor has got you well on the way. All right, fellas, let me go ahead and ask the question that everybody is going to want to ask now. Now that we've said all this, because things are just looking a little bit too good, going a little bit too well. So let me find out. Your wives, how old are they? And what race are they?
Go ahead, Ty. I'm curious.
Oh, my wife, what is she now? My wife, she's in her late 30s now, and she's Hispanic.
One down. Trey, your turn.
My wife is 38. She's black.
All right. Trey is doing okay. Ty? We gotta talk. How did this happen? You know they're gonna
What
be
do
up.
you mean?
You know this. They're gonna be upset. You know it's. You know it's gonna be trouble. How did this occur?
How did this get? Oh, you mean the? Oh man, are you kidding? I guess we're still at that, huh?
Yes,
So
brother.
that's an issue.
Yes, we live in a nation of white supremacy. So yes, sir, we are still at that for the last 400 years and counting. No, sir, they were literally just hopping over the Capitol Hill stairs yesterday. So, yes, sir.
I guess that's fair. Well, I mean, it was like-minded, and we just got along.
It was like-minded and we got along. If I may to ask, on behalf of all the black ladies out there, will you please tell me when you said we just got along, will you please tell me where the areas of common interest are for a 25-year-old black male and a 32 or 33-year-old Latina in D.C.?
Well, oh yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we just had similar interests. Like, we liked working out. Obviously we like golf. She's smart. She's really, really intelligent. And yeah, it was simple, nothing too crazy.
Well, as you can probably imagine, the Hispanic population's not that large up there. Certainly not as large as the black population. So the next question would be, how did you wind up bypassing all those black women for all those years? Was that a conscious decision?
Not really. It was more of it just happened that way. Like, didn't really think about it like that.
Have you ever dated any black women?
Yeah. Back in St. Louis, I did.
Oh, you're not okay. Back in St. Louis. Well, that's been a while ago, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been some time.
Did you date any Hispanic women or non-black women there in St. Louis?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
Can't remember. They weren't really around.
They weren't really around. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the next thing people would be concerned about there, man. You went all the way through your 20s. You've been to 2 majority black cities. And the first question they'll ask is, you know what they're going to say? Well, you fellas. Oh, one other thing. When you were 25, what were you doing for a living then?
I was a software engineer still.
Okay. But you were a 25-year-old software engineer. I want to come back to that. I'll save that for right now. I'll come back to that. Trey, being over the last 10 years here or so, have you met any of that, I guess for lack of a better word, envy? How often are women lamenting or asking you about your status?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, even acquaintances from college and my professional career, yeah, you get it asked a lot.
And have you met up with any women who were, that's the next thing I want to ask you. Have you met up with any women who you used to know before things got good for you? Have they come circling back around, or have they entered your circles or anything?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, with my wife and, out on the town or just out, or, they jump in your inbox. Not that it's anything that's inappropriate, but yeah, they'll say I missed out on one, or, silly stuff like that. But, it is what it is. That's just the nature silly? Of some women.
Well, let me ask you though, Trey, is it silly? I mean, is it really?
Is it silly?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Is it really?
Yeah, it is silly.
Why do you say that?
Because I was climbing then. I told them what my plans were. I told them I was ready to, to work, have someone work alongside with me to achieve my goals, and that was it. They chose not to go for the ride.
Okay, you being a little bit older than Ty, that's the kind of thing I want to ask you about. When you say that they chose not to be along for the ride, what do you mean by that?
So going back to the age of, you said how old Ty was, 25. At 25, I had started my career in my climb. And so you don't start out at 100,000, you work up to that. And a lot of the young ladies at that time were like, well, if you don't have it now, then I don't really want to help you get to it. So, we can date, we can be cool, but, they wanted it then and now. So I charged it to the game and just kept it moving. But then once I had met my now wife, we were dating long distance for a while, I explained the same thing to her. I even left. We dated long distance for 3 years because I was establishing myself up here from leaving down in North Carolina where I went to school. And once I came back, I sent for her, and just executed the plan.
Let me ask here, Ty, did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, actually, that's funny. That was still happening. Wow. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And your current wife, she was that type of woman, or did you? Let me find out. By the time you met her, well, how much money were you making when you were 25? Because that's what I wanted to ask you before.
I think I had just got into six figures, like the bare, like right on the cusp of 100K, or like even like 100K, even like I was right there. Like I just crossed over.
At 25, that's not bad. Did she have any kids?
Yeah. Her?
Yes.
No.
She didn't have any children?
No.
Okay, was she a divorcee?
Yes.
Okay, so we did meet a divorcee, but that's one of those things. Maybe her experiences made her a little bit sharper about being able to, what I call identify a prospect. Ladies, you got to be able to do that. Now, fellas, let me ask you here, as far as your white counterparts, do you consider yourselves to be competitive with them in your respective fields, in your respective level of achievement? Let me ask Ty that first.
Yes, sir. I always had the mentality, though, that you have to make sure that you put in more effort and be better, like just to even get an ounce of like respect. Like you have to make sure you put in, if they're putting in, 40 hours, you got to put in 50. So.
And Trey, do you feel that you are competitive with your non-black counterparts at your level of achievement and what you've done?
Yes.
And why do you say that?
Well, just looking at my contemporaries and the individuals I work with, I measure the competitiveness on level of knowledge, achievement, just what their standing in the organization is, and whether or not I can go. If they can come to me to solve the problems, but no one can really go to them, then I don't really consider them necessarily on the same level achievement-wise. So I really don't. I don't get into those back and forths. I rather just let my accomplishments speak for themselves.
I think that's the best way to do things. So let me find out from you here, gentlemen. What would you say to the women out there who are going to say, or who do say, that there are not enough good, eligible black men in the D.C. area? What do you say to them?
Go ahead, Ty.
Oh, I mean, are they? I always wondered. I've heard that before, and I wonder what that means. Because not everyone's going to be making six figures. It's just not possible. Like, well, I don't like when they say that. Like, what is that implying?
Well, what it means is that they are looking for a man who can take care of them.
Okay, and you can do that without making six figures.
You can. Well, but it's going to be but that's going to be a hell of a struggle.
It is. That's fair. That's fair. I get it.
You're going to spend a lot of time dreaming about stuff and wishing about stuff. But like I say, if the top 25% makes $140,000 a year or more, if you're not making that, that means that you are missing out on 75 or 80 or even 90% of what DC has to offer. Why would the woman want to be a part of that? You know, why would she want to miss out?
I mean, that's very interesting. I never thought of it that way. Wow. Yeah. So I would say probably just try and get in the circles around those particular people. Try to have shared interests. Try to make sure you stay in good shape. I mean, most people around here are in really good shape. You see people running around all the time. That would be a tip that I would give.
Maybe they can go to the golf course. Trey?
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
I mean, well, no, I mean, I'm only being slightly facetious, but I gave that suggestion weeks ago because one of the problems is that, the ladies are waiting to meet a man at church, and I'm going to come back to that in just a few moments, but they're waiting for Jesus to either bring them a man or they want a man to come to their sorority or whatever, and it's not really going to be dudes hanging out at the grocery store and the daycare like that. That's not going to be the case. Let me ask Trey here, though. I'm only a little bit older than you are, but what do you say to the women in D.C., because you've been hearing this a whole lot longer than Ty has. Not as long as me, but certainly longer than him.
Right.
What do you say to the women who say there are not enough productive, black men in D.C. who could be able to provide them be able to afford a life where they're not struggling? What do you say to the women who say that?
Well, normally these conversations, they come up in a social setting, and they're really just putting it out there that they're looking. So I'll entertain the conversation, whether I'm picking up some food or something, but it really doesn't take that long to break it down to them what it is that's needed. And it's that it's not six figures. It's not really the amount that the man may make. It's how he uses what it is that he makes, and necessarily does he live in DC proper or not. So a lot of people will say they live in the city proper, but in the outskirts of D.C., Maryland, and certain parts of Virginia are where people will mainly reside. So that dollar will go a little bit further depending on where they actually live.
Yeah, I mean, Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax, if you got a little bit more money, depending on where it is there. So you'll be out in those areas, true, but are you saying that that's the issue is where they're looking at geographically?
Well, where they're looking and then what they're looking for. Because if they're looking for someone to take care of them, it's not going to really be a single person effort living up here. It's known. This isn't the 80s anymore. That if they're expecting to stay home, then they're not going to be staying in some place that's ideal for them to be staying home while the gentleman is out earning the bread. So they're going to have to go into it with the mind frame that it's going to take both of them to achieve what it is that she's looking for.
In a case like that, then, for fellas who are making well over six figures, and the both of you are, what type of woman? And I want to speak specifically to the women because I want to get back to what the men are doing as far as competing. But for the women who are listening, this is what they really want to know. What type of woman is it? What are the characteristics she would need to have? And I mean mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, economically. What exactly are fellas at your level looking for here? Let me start with Ty.
I guess back in those days, it was really, for me, fitness was a huge proponent of it. I'm still in the world of fitness even now. That was huge, and that was one of the things that actually drew me to my wife. Like, even now after a child, she's still in great shape. So it's like, yeah, that was very important to me. The education stuff is real nice that's like a bonus, I think that's icing on the cake, but it does matter. I mean, you don't want to you don't want to be having someone that is going to be holding you back or anything like that. But yeah, that's for me. That's pretty much that was number one, and I guess
I would agree on the fitness.
Go ahead, Trey.
No, I said I'll agree on the fitness side. It's definitely a bonus. Well, it's not even a bonus. That's a necessity. That's just a necessity. Yeah.
Why?
I can't even tie a dollar figure to that.
Okay, let me find out here. Okay, the ladies are going to be asking, but why? Which is a stupid, silly question. But why is it? Can you explain in your own words why is that? Of all the things you can name, why is that essential?
It's essential for me. This is Trey. It's essential for me. I look at things in the long term. Health-wise, later on in life, the bills, it's just going to be more expensive to take care of someone that's not taking care of themselves. That's, when they're younger. So later when you're thinking, you're going to be laying out on the beach or taking cruises, but you're laying up on dialysis because you didn't take care of yourself. That's not fun. That wouldn't be fun. There are ways to prevent all of that stuff just by being diligent and having a proper diet. And you can still go out and have all the fun you want, but you still have to take care of yourself, which is going to translate over into your career, which is going to translate over into your self-esteem, which is going to translate over to the type of men that you attract.
All right, and Ty, since you started this line of discussion, why is physical fitness in a woman such the main priority you were looking for?
The health of my future children was big for me. Anything can happen. Obviously, it's kind of crapshoot, but I felt like the healthier a woman would be a higher chance of my offspring being healthy, and also like it matches my own lifestyle. I'm very critical about my own physique, so it would be kind of odd to have someone that wasn't on that wavelength. Not to the extent of like how serious I take it, but at least someone that tries. They go to work out. They're not eating Popeye sandwiches all day. They know a little bit something about nutrition, and then they'll spread that that message to the kids. Not really feeding them McDonald's and apple pies and cakes and all that kind of stuff.
All right, let me find out here. Are fellas like you hanging out in church?
Oh, sorry about that. My wife's on the treadmill right now. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jason.
Oh, okay. We're interrupting fitness night. But let me find out here from your trade, dude. A lot of women are talking about they going to church to find a man. So for fellas like yourselves who are making well over six figures, you're that target demographic the women want, not just in D.C., but everywhere. Are fellas like you hanging out at church? And if so, which part of it?
Ain't no straight men in church in D.C. They're not hanging out at church.
But that's where the women are.
That's not what the men there they're looking for are. They're men there, yes, but they're not the type of men that are attracted to the women.
So you mean past the pork chop ain't going to be able to prey him up on the man?
Nah. No.
Well, Trey seems to be a little cynical about that, but maybe you have a better insight. Are the fellas at your level hanging out at church?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I haven't gone to church in a minute. I went probably to one, like a non-denominational one. I went to one a couple times a few years ago, but it was not. Church is not the same. Not like it used to be. I was raised in the fire and brimstone and the organ going crazy. I was raised in that environment. Like the stuff they have now, where they're just like telling you everything's gonna be okay if you give us more money. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good on that.
So in the chat room said black women need to go to an AME if they want a man. Are their chances better at an AME church, Trey?
No, Nope.
I didn't think so either. I didn't think so either. I think they're grasping at straws over there. I don't think their odds are any better. I don't.
And I'm being very unbiased. I'm not jaded by church. I had the experience. I understand what it's for. But for me, going to church and understanding and recognizing when the population is there, no, nah, nope.
How many women between the two of you? Let me start with Ty first. How many women have you dated or been with who made more money than you?
I can only think of one.
How old were you?
I was in my early 20s.
All right. And you haven't seen a single female that you've been with who made more money than you since?
I can't say that, but I only know of one for sure. But the others, when they would start talking about that, it was winning.
All right. Trey, let me find out. How many women have, in your illustrious career, have you been acquainted with who made more money than you?
Several of them.
How old were you at the time?
I'll say between the ages of, let's just start from grad school. So about 24 till about 30,
I see a pattern forming. Because you see, there's this narrative that's been floating around that people like to feed themselves that is not substantiated by the facts, the statistics, or the reality. That somehow all the women are making 6 and 7 figures and all the fellas are out here working the grill at, Chuck E. Cheese. Okay, I know I'm mixing my restaurants, but you all get the point. And there's this narrative that the fellas are out here struggling and the women are just out here killing it financially. And that's an urban myth, literally, that's been passed around so long that a lot of people actually believe it. So I wanted to take this as my opportunity to go ahead and address that so that you all could say, okay, but in the real world, are the women really killing it like that and the fellas are just struggling? And the reality is, when you're in your early 20s, well, maybe. But usually once the fellas latch on to something, by their late 20s, they take off. And that's the thing that I gave people with the peak value matrix. The reason why I did that was because that's exactly, you guys are articulating exactly what I was talking about. When you hit your late 20s, you take off. And so there's this urban myth that somehow the fellas are just out here struggling and the women can't find a producer because they make too much money. Do you think that's a reality, or is that a fallacy, or or in general, what's your opinion about that?
I think generally it's a fallacy because people meet people in different parts of their lives and their careers. And again, thinking back on my own experience, I would meet I would meet women who would be senior executives where I was entry level, and then I would meet, someone who would have their own practice in something. So yeah, they would make their money. They make more money than me at the time. It really didn't change how they treated me or we interacted. It just didn't work out. So, yeah, I think overall, generally, it's a fallacy.
Yeah, I agree. There are plenty of women doing very well for themselves out here. I mean, you see that all the time. They'll be driving Range Rovers or Maseratis or something. Like they're doing well. They're in positions of management. They have, they have certifications and all this kind of stuff, degrees, PhDs. But for the most part, they're picking at you when they meet you in your early 20s, and they don't give you that time to fully come into your own. Men aren't born, they're made, and it takes a while to really figure out who you are and like what your purpose is and like to develop actual skills. Like college isn't where you actually develop your skills. It's out here grinding away, just putting your nose to the grindstone.
Let me ask you something else here. In that D.C. area, and I want to start with Ty first, since he is a frequent traveler in the interracial scene. What would you say is the percentage of non-black men scooping up all of the pretty eligible, well-to-do black women in the D.C. in your group? I
mean, in my group, I don't really. I mean, You see it. You see it. I mean, it happens. You can't deny it. You'll see it. But I mean, it's not. I mean, are you saying like they're just walking around, jumping rope together and this kind of thing, where it's all, roses and rainbows? I don't see that, but it does happen occasionally. Yeah.
All right, and Trey, what about you? Let me see. Trey might have fallen off. Let me go see if I can get him back on the line here. But for the folks out there who are saying,
please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to connect you.
Try again, sir. We'll wait for them to get their lives together for us here. He said he hung up accidentally. Now he's not getting himself together over there. In any case, here we are talking to the fellas in D.C. about the Six Figure Men's Club here tonight for the D.C. edition of that. That's something I want the fellas to weigh in on this. I think we got Trey back on the line.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, we were asking them here about the situation that they give us here. How many of the women in D.C. are you seeing getting scooped? You constantly hear about them talking about that they're going to get a white man. How many of the white dudes in D.C. are scooping them up like that?
You don't really see it a lot. I mean, it's in pockets, but it does occur. But I know it's mostly transplants. There are people moving from other areas that are converging on DC, and they'll either bring their significant other or they'll meet someone here. That's mainly what I see.
Okay, and does it really go that well for them? Or if I can just be brutally frank, are we watching them? Is it some slumming gutter sex, or are they really getting taken care of?
That's funny. Oh man. Gosh, I wouldn't be privy to that, though. Looking at sometimes you'll see it. It'll be equally yoked. Just going off of appearance wise. But it's not really the straight up, sisters. It'll be someone that's from, the Midwest, or sorry, let me not say that, Ty, but it'll be someone that's not from here that, that they'll come with the person that they were dating back there. That's pretty much all I can say. Because like if you're from here and you understand culture and you see you'll see how many black men that are out there, so you really won't have to venture too far, because there's so many universities, there's so many teams that, it's just here. That's just how this area is. So if you choose to date someone outside of your race, it's a major choice that you're making.
Ty, your turn.
Yeah, I can't really. I'm not too involved with that kind of stuff. I can only be guessing, but it seems like they're happy. Yeah, I don't know. It really, to me though, one thing it sticks out. It is a certain archetype woman that's doing that. Well,
let me ask you, Trey, when you said that they're sometimes you see them, they're equally yoked. I'm curious to find out, how are a black woman and a white man equally yoked? What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I was going back off of your reference from the fetish gutter sex thing type. Like you won't often see a fairly attractive black woman with a fairly attractive black man. That's what you. Excuse me. Let me say that back. I said that backwards. You won't see an unattractive white male with a attractive white woman, and you won't see a fit attractive white male with a unfit black woman.
Oh, so you mean the white men are not dating the size 14s and 16s? Is that what you're trying to say, basically?
Oh God, no. No.
Nah, nah. In those cases, then you know that they're actually playing. There's some role playing going on.
Okay, so you mean the size 16s who called me up and said they're gonna get them a white man if the brothers don't act right? This is not off to Camelot.
So this is what they got to realize is that up here, not all the white men are making six figures. So yeah, you can say I'm gonna go and find a white man, but he may be working at AutoZone and not the manager. No slight to AutoZone, no slight to white men that work there, but it has to be apples and apples. If you want a black male that has six figures, then you need to have, and you have that same expectation for a white male. You can't choose down twice. You shouldn't choose down twice. So
and one thing I have out. Oh, sorry. On that point, when it comes to them about weight, they're very critical of weight. Like it's. I don't know how they think at that size they're gonna be able to pull that, especially with a guy, white guy that has six figures. Like that's just not happening. That's fantasy. Like it's not gonna happen.
The there you're speaking about are white males.
Yeah. If they think they're gonna come in there at a size 16, like no.
Oh yeah, nah, that's not happening. They hit them with the Ray Charles test. You all in the forearm.
Okay, well.
No.
That's for the big gals. Let me find out here. What about the single moms? Now, the single moms are going to tell us here that there's no reason that they shouldn't be eligible for one of you fellas in the six-figure club. And if you're not going to do right, well, they'll get them a white man. Let me find out, Ty, are the single moms killing the game in the six-figure club right now and the rest of us are just missing out?
I don't know. I can't say that would be a common occurrence. I mean, I'm sure there are some instances, but I don't hear anybody clamoring for that. It's just if it happens, it happens. Good for them, but it's not going to be like someone's first option.
So you
especially when most people
and the other physically fit fellas making a couple of $100,000 a year in DC, you all are not leaving the resume open for the single moms at Howard?
I wouldn't
Actually,
so.
yes. Ty, hold up. Yes, there is a place for that. And I'm not even saying just, intimate or sexually or anything like that, though depending on how old the child is and how the woman carries themselves, they can vie for that type of attention from that type of man, but they have to be exceptional, like super exceptional.
Okay. And actually, on that point, there are a lot of them out here that are exceptional.
A lot?
You see them.
Now that's a big word. That's a big word, Ty. When you say a lot of them are exceptional in DC, is that really what you mean?
Not in DC though. Not in DC. It's a little further out in like the Alexandria, Fairfax.
Okay.
Nah, that's Virginia, man. No. You're not qualified for that. That's not even part of this conversation.
Yeah, as a person who is familiar with that area, for those of you who do not know, Fairfax, Virginia is one of the richest places in America. There's also, I don't want to say too much information, but I will just say it's available on Google. There is a certain individual who was in one of my most recent films, Race War. They live in that area. I'm not putting anybody's business out there. This was posted by the New York Times and other publications, which be that as it may. But what I will say is, for Fairfax, we're a little bit ways out there, but by the same token, that's one of the wealthiest areas in America. So if the single moms are cleaning up in Fairfax,
right,
I need to do a new documentary. Maybe they are. Maybe they are out there doing that. But just to be sure here, so Trey, for a fella at your stage right here, you know what they're going to say right here. I mean, they're going to be telling us that nothing's changed and everything's just fine. And let me just ask you, for fellas at your stage of achievement, how eligible is the local single mom from the law school?
Wow. Late. That's probably about it.
What's about it?
That she'd be the one to call at late nights.
That's cold.
It's DC. Because you don't have to go for the single mom, because there's others out there that don't have kids that are in law school as well.
Well, ladies, the verdict is in DC in the Six Figure Men's Club. You can be the jump off and then get off, but that's pretty much gonna be it right there. It's not a long line forming to take up the slack there. So let me find out really quickly here. Do you think that black men are doing well in DC and getting better? Do you think it is stagnated, or do you think brothers are losing ground? Let me start with Ty.
I think they're doing pretty well. I work in tech, and I see more and more in the hopping in, and it's looking positive. I think it's on a incline, but I could be wrong. But to me, it looks like it's getting better. I'm happy with what I see.
And Trey, what do you think now, going into your fourth decade of life here? What do you see? Are the brothers doing better? Are they doing what they're doing and getting better, stagnating, or is it getting worse?
I'd like to say it's getting better, and it's incrementally getting better. There's still a lot more to do, though it's getting better overall. And I'm looking at the total picture, the grand scheme, and over a period of time. But it's getting better. There has been some regression through the mid 2010s, leading up to that. But I can say within the last 10 years or so, there's been small steps toward going higher in progression.
Do you feel, Trey, that black men in DC are more respected today or less respected than they were 20 years ago? And whatever your answer is, why?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So I'd have to look at it from two different lenses, because 20 years ago I wasn't in the same mind frame. Sheesh. I think this area, the black men that come from this area, and even the people that move to this area, they kind of start to understand what it's about. What the representation of being black is, and being in this area. You don't really get many cut cards. You have to be about your thing, because it'll eat you alive out here. I mean, the world period, but especially out here. I can't say that it's we're looked upon favorably, but I think it's pretty much just even. I'd like to see it's even, but if to put a percentile to it, I'd say 49%, 49% favorability, and that's just from it being here, because we're so insulated in this area because of the opportunities with the federal government, that is.
All right, and Ty, 31 years old, what do you say? Are black men more or less respected than you were 10, 20 years ago? In your case, we'll just leave it at 10.
Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like the opportunities are there. I feel like they give you they let you do your thing. Of course, you're always going to be held to a bit of a higher standard, like it always is. But if you come in there and you do what you got to do, you will garner a certain level of respect. Now, again, this is, you're never going to be treated as an equal, quote unquote, which I don't expect anyway. But you're not. Nothing crazy is going to happen to you. You can get your work done. Get your paycheck and go home. Well,
to the extent that you can, but I'm referring to more socially. Like I take a look at the political environment. I see a lot of focus on LGBT and on black women, but it seems like there's this push and this effort to try to denigrate black men and try to sweep us aside and marginalize us. So I'm really taking a look at status-wise in DC.
I got you.
If you think
I
it's
feel we've
the
been
same
more
thing.
forgotten. I would say we've been more forgotten, like just kind of pushed to the side or to the back. Anytime we have concerns, it has to include everyone else, like that kind of thing, and that's troublesome.
Yeah, agreed. There's an attempt. There is an attempt, and it's a strong concerted attempt. But again, with this area being how it is, it doesn't really. We can't be pushed away as easily because there's such a concentration of black men in this area. So, something like that can happen out in Fairfax, but closer that you get to the city, the less likely it happens.
Well, let me find out here, fellas. We've been on here for almost an hour now. I'd like to thank you for your time here. First and foremost, to the fellas out there, what would be your advice to them? Are you enjoying the way that you're living right now? And if you are, what would be your advice to them?
Go ahead, Ty.
Oh, okay. I would say keep working hard. Focus on you, your growth, your purpose, and all that other stuff will fall in line. Keep your nose clean, always keep your eyes open, looking around, making sure everything's good, and just stay focused and stay honest. It's really about it.
And Trey, what is your advice to the fellas out there looking to come up?
Find a mentor. Find a black male that is in an industry or in the industry that you would like to get into and plan to get into, and just ask if you can pick his brain and have weekly or monthly check-ins or call-ins and actually ask questions. Be prepared to find out what it takes to get to those stages that man's been to and is where he's going. And I think that's a great step, and that step will help you with your career, interpersonal life, pretty much everything.
All right, and what would be your advice to the women out there who are trying to get them a peak value male? What would be your advice to them? First for you, Trey.
Sheesh. Gosh. Find a mentor. find a woman. Find a woman the same advice. Find a woman that's in that position and pick her brain of what it took for her to corral that man.
Most of them don't have that, not even their own mothers. So how does that work for them?
Easy. You go to, not the church, but go to whether they're in sorority. Well, let's not even say sororities. Just become involved in their community. Don't volunteer their time and seek out these women. And that they most likely will be older women that come from a different generation, and even if they're not, if they're younger than them, that's even better because they can give them more relevant information that they'll be able to grasp.
I don't know about that, and far be it for me to dispute one of my guests. I don't know about that, and the reason I don't know about that is because they haven't really impressed upon me that they have a lot of, wisdom to impart. That hasn't really been something that I've seen that's just been, just a very common thing, even in the DC area there. I worry about that. I worry about that, the availability of that kind of thing.
Yeah, agreed.
That's the kind of thing I worry about. And Ty, what would you tell them?
Just bring something of value. Like try to separate yourself from the pack. Everyone's so caught up on physical. Like that's always great. That should be standard in my opinion. That should already be there. Like what else do you bring? And money and education, that's all nice. But, what other qualities do you bring? You bring some, can you keep a home? Like, are you going to keep peace in the home? Are you going to be nagging and this kind of things? That's the kind of stuff I would say focus on, because all that other stuff is great, but if someone doesn't want to be around you for a long period of time, like that's going to be an issue.
Well, how can someone commit to you if you're not there for very long? Well, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you both for joining us here tonight. I wanted to get your insights about this for the people who live up there and whatnot. This is not conjecture. This is not hyperbole. You're hearing it directly from men who are at that level, at that income. They're both married, both within and outside the community. So you've got basically the whole gamut of insight to that. It's not a bunch of black woman bashing or hating. It is just straight up the middle insight. And I think that's really good to have some guys who are actually married, because they don't have a dog in the fight of attempting to influence people's behavior at large, because they already got theirs. So you can take it and listen, or you can ignore it, whichever in the world you choose. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for joining us here tonight. Let's do it again sometime.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
This has been the Six Figure Men's Club here, DC edition. You may like it. You may hate it. Take it however you will. That's up to you. That's up to you. I didn't say you were going to like that there, but by the way, they're echoing a lot of the sentiments that we gave you already here. Echoing a lot of those sentiments. But enough from me. If you are just tuning in here tonight, you definitely want to share tonight's program. That's really going to be essential. YouTube has us under a shadow ban, but let's go ahead and deal with that. In the meantime, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the foundation upon which all of these other programs have ripped off and based everything that they're doing. I want you to go ahead and give us a call up here tonight. I'll send out an invitation to the ladies in DC. If they're the women in DC, if you want to call in and speak on this, you can do that. To the fellas out there, did you agree? Did you disagree? I want to ask the fellas to call up and you let us know, did you agree or did you disagree with what you heard? You can go ahead and weigh in and say exactly what you think about that. The telephone line is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the business. The only one of its kind that you're going to find here. Let me go ahead and see if I can open up the phone lines. Yes, I did check the volume on Blog Talk. We are good, so mind your manners. Let me get caller from area code 787. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay, brother, your phone is digitizing to hell. Let me go ahead and put you back on hold. We'll come back to you. Let me get caller from area code 202. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from 202, you're on, man.
What's going on, Jason? How's it going? This is Nick from DC.
Wake up. I know you're over there feeling on yourself, brother. Put down the Vaseline and the oils and answer the phone. What's on your mind?
Nothing, man. I was just listening to the show. I'm here in DC. I'm with brother. I'm making six figures, and I was listening to the other two that were on the line, and when you asked them if they had any advice for some guys, I guess, looking to be in that arena, I had, something to add to it.
Okay, and what did you want to add?
Well, I guess my advice to any brothers that are especially getting started in the career in this area, because this area is so specific with the federal government, and also the other side of that would be federal contractor, I would suggest that they probably spend the first couple of years in the federal government to get credentialed. Because when you cross over into that federal contractor side, that is more specialized, that also pays more, they require certain certifications that only the government offers. So if you go over there and you don't have those credentials, then you're looking to join a firm or a private company that will pay for that. And that could also take a hit on your salary. But if you kind of follow that blueprint, like I did out of school, you could probably be six figures in about 5 to 6 years in your career. Like I was about six figures, like around 27 years old.
All right. And do you think that that has improved your standing, your status? Did it turn out the way you thought it would?
It turned out better than I thought. I didn't think that I would be where I am in life as fast as I got there. Absolutely. You know, it enabled me to become a homeowner pretty early, and enabled me to be kind of like more eligible with the ladies here. And, you know, kind of had to pick up my litter when it came to moving forward with a girl that I wanted to marry. So absolutely, it gave me better standing. But I was groomed by some brothers that were on the contractor side while I was a government employee. And, you know, they kind of gave me the game, and I just followed their blueprint, and I followed it to the T. And I charted my own path. And now, you know, so I've gone from federal employee to a federal contractor to an independent, you know, self-employed brother. So it's worked out perfectly.
All right. Well, I'm certainly glad to hear that as well here. Do you get a lot of complaints from the women?
No, I don't get any complaints from the women. I've actually been married. I've been married since about 2013. But when I was a bachelor, no, there was no complaints. Like I said, this area is a little different. You seem to have a high level of young professional blacks in this area, you know. So it's a different mentality than where you go other places. You know, if I could compare the women to where I went to school in Florida to the women up here, you know, a lot of people kind of come to this DC area, this DC region, to make their money. So they are already landing here with a certain mindset, with a certain attitude. They're kind of cooperative as well. So it's a little different.
Okay. And let me find out here. How old are you?
Just turned 41 in December.
Okay. All the 40 dudes. And that's something else you're going to notice here. It's going to be rare that you find a tie out there and whatnot. Let me ask you here, brother, about something specifically like that. Let me just be brutally frank. What are the prospects for the size 16s in DC to get them a man making six figures and living comfortably?
I mean, well, you know, there's always those dudes out there that get the big women love. But that is definitely not the norm. I'll just be quite frank with you. My wife is a professional bodybuilder. She's a competitor. You know, she got into that after she had our two kids. But even before I met her, she was in the gym. And I will be honest, that's like one of the most, that's one of the things that stuck out the most. You know, we both worked at the same job at the same time. And, you know, I was leaving to go home. She was leaving to go to the gym. That was something that always stuck out, you know. So the size 16s could get some love here. There's always brothers that like the larger size, the plus size women.
Okay, but I'm talking about, you know, but I'm talking about the fellas making six figures or more.
Well, okay. Now that you throw that in there.
Yes, but we're only talking about the six-figure men. We're not talking about the dudes who are fresh out the joint. We're not talking about the fellas who are, you know, trying to get in where they fit in. We're talking about the ones who actually have leverage and actually have resources so that they are able to make the choices that they want to make as opposed to being stuck with what they got to. So I want to talk about them. So how many of you and your friends are dating Citibank?
Yeah.
Don't lie now.
I'll answer your question like this. Most of the sisters that I know that I went to school with that are back here in the DC area and ones that I met here that are plus size women are single.
Are they very single or just a little single?
Say that again. I couldn't hear you.
Are they very single or are they just a little single?
That I can't answer. I mean, because, you know, I really don't keep too many tabs on my single female friends like that. But I do know that they're single, and they've been single. I'll say that. You know, they've been single since college.
How about the single moms?
You know,
are the single moms getting what they want up there? from these
No,
from
that's
the
not
six figure
that's
men?
not going to happen.
Okay.
No, I mean, people are probably going to get upset. I mean, it's not impossible. Of course, we're not speaking in exacts here, but it's going to be very hard to find a brother that's charting his career here. Like I said, whether bouncing between the federal government, he's maybe 4 or 5 years in, he's approaching a GS-13, maybe a GS-12, GS-13, which is creeping up on $100,000 a year, a little bit over, maybe like 109. He has his pick. And you know, that those type of aesthetics are just not favorable when not in this area. I mean, you just have some really nice looking sisters that have their stuff together. It seems to me like one of the main things that a lot of females here that kind of do to really, really up their status is they become homeowners. That's something that's really unique here in this city because the city kind of like starts west and moves east as far as gentrification. So there's always a section of the city where, you know, you could become that independent woman, that homeowner. And it's not like on a competition thing with the brothers. It's more so to put themselves out there and make them more eligible. And it does seem to me that, you know, some of the women that have not only that together, but have their body and their image together seem to fare a little bit better.
And are you finding that to be an issue? Because we get a lot of complaints from the brothers out here that the women are just not in shape. They are not very desirable, or at least it's a lot harder to find them in shape like that. And by the way, I've been to D.C. more than a few times. So, but let me find out from you as a resident there, in your opinion, how is the physical fitness hitting with the women out there?
It's not anywhere near what it used to be. When I say what it used to be, maybe like 10, 15 years ago, when I was coming of age, when I was kind of cutting my teeth in my career and personal life, it seems that women, they more so embrace the kind of like bottom heavy, thick, but not thick fit, but the bottom heavy kind of, you know,
Humpty Dumpty
body image, man.
The Humpty Dumpty build. Yeah, I'm from Louisiana.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
I'm from Louisiana, and just truth be told, we used to not see that in Dallas, D.C. You know, you used to not see that in those areas. Now, you know, and then we let thick migrate, and now they built like the cows from Chick-fil-A. So, I mean, it's one of those things. It's starting to become an issue. Them little bitty feet and them great big old drumstick thighs on them, and it's starting to look like Humpty Dumpty out there. So I'm just going to tell you all, from a fellow who is from a place that's overrun with that, you better hold the damn line, because once you lose it, it will be gone. And then at that point, the fit women will be the ones dictating what you all get, because it's going to be either that, it won't be any in between. There won't be a happy median. It will just be obese and fit with nothing in between. And the obese will outnumber the fit 8-1 easily.
Absolutely. Yeah, that whole thick idea has gotten out of hand, I would say, probably in the last 10 years. I mean, maybe it used to be okay because, you know, naturally our females are thick. I am married to a black woman, by the way. And, you know, naturally they're thick and that's fine. But, you know, some women think that, you know, they just want to kind of pile on the pounds and maybe kind of round it off with a marginal or, you know, exercise. And that's just, I mean, you know, that's a recipe for disaster, especially as you age and you get older. It's going to become more harder to control.
One last question here. Since you are not willing to take the size 16s off the market with their accomplishments and degrees and their income, and since you just don't appreciate it, and since you also don't see the value of taking a single mom and her kids off the market, since you're apparently too shallow for that, I just thought you should know that the women have made it very clear that there is a Brad out there who is willing to do so. There's an Asian fella out there willing to do so, and that they're going to go test their options. So the last thing I want to ask you about here is, what do you say? Do you have any words of consolation to the fellas who are going to lose all these size 16s and single moms to all these non-black men who are chomping at the bit to take them off the market?
Well, I would just say hold the line, man. You know, we have options. If you're in this area, you definitely have options. You don't have to settle for that. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with settling for for a girl who's plus size. If her mind's right, she's willing to get in the gym, and maybe you could go with her, and y'all could just, you know, be a nice looking couple together. There's nothing wrong with that. But no, you know, if they're saying that they're going to run to the other side, then you know, like I said, you don't have to compromise for that. There's
is
too
there
many
anything?
sisters out here that
The real question is there anything waiting for them over there?
Is there anything waiting for the brothers?
No, is there anything waiting for the women?
What, the plus size women?
The plus size, the single moms, the attitude issues. They say they're gonna go get them a white man in DC. What do you think?
Well, I don't really group the plus size women and the single moms in the same ones with the attitude issues. You know, my wife had an attitude issue when I first got her. She's literally standing like 15 feet away from me. We talk about this all the time. But, you know, that to me, that's not really an excuse for brothers. I mean, you know, if you could deal with your mom, you could deal with your future wife. You know, my wife and I took a long time to get on the same page. But, you know, that's what marriage is about, you know, other than coming together, pulling together resources and raising a family, man. You know, you got to have to make that work.
What if
so
your
black
mom
women are capable of that.
What if your mom didn't have what if your mom didn't have an attitude issue? Then what?
Well, then that person probably really would be thrown off by a woman's attitude, and that wouldn't be the woman for him. But, you know, to answer your question, for the single moms, that's something that I never considered. And I'm pretty sure, and, you know, I have friends, we talk, all my friends are pretty much at the same level as I am in my career. And, you know, that's just something that we're not going to deal with. And to be honest with you, it really has nothing to do with the woman. It just takes a hell of a man to raise another man's kids. You know that woman is going to be attached to that other guy. And, you know, when you have options and you don't have to deal with it, you're not, you know.
Well, I think that says it all. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. We're talking to the Six Figure Men's Club in DC out here. Very enlightening. I hope the women are paying attention. I'm not seeing too much back talk from the women in the chat room here tonight, but you are welcome to give us a call tonight, ladies. If you want to, you can go ahead and give us a call up and weigh in on that. Let me get a caller from area code 703. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason, how you doing? It's Larry from Woodbridge, Virginia.
Larry from Woodbridge, Virginia. What's on your mind?
Not much. I mean, this is a great program. I definitely had to tune in since this basically program is about the DMV area. I was born and raised here. But the only thing I would add on, it seems like there's more, when they was talking about the percentile of brothers making six figures, I'd say it's probably up to about 30 to 35% nowadays. Maybe 10 years ago, it was probably at 15 to 20%. But it's increased significantly, especially given the fact that you have an increase in the military population, because I'd say 60 to 70% of prior service military members, they always end up moving here, getting themselves a good government job, a six-figure government job, and a six-figure government contract job all at the same time. And that gives them the pick of the litter, especially if they're in their 20s and 30s, of the kind of women that they want to date and whatnot.
Well, okay, I'm glad to hear about that, because you know exactly what we hear here as far as let them tell the tale. The brothers are just out here struggling and scraping and dusty and nothing's happening, and the women are hitting on all cylinders and everything's just fine, and the fellas just can't keep up. In your opinion, is that the case?
That's definitely not the case, because whether if you live in PG County, Montgomery County, you live in the city of D.C., Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, Woodbridge, it's not. That's not the case. Men have to pick of the litter, and in some instances, women have to pick of the litter here in the DMV area, because you have some of the highest paid African American women in the United States. They live in this area. It's normal for a black woman to make $130,000 to $150,000 in this area. It's like the previous caller mentioned, and she can buy herself a property in the city, or buy herself a property in PG County, or buy herself a property in Virginia or whatnot.
Right, I mean, but how does her income give her the pick of the litter exactly?
Well, okay, I half step on that one. She'll have a pick of the litter in regards to the kind of six-figure man that she wants to get, because like the previous caller said, another six-figure man in this area is going to be like, okay, this is what I bring to the table. what do you bring to the table? You know, and then I'm trying to build an empire. Where's your empire? Or what's your business plan in regards to your empire and whatnot? And that is a growing population amongst the African American community in this area, no matter what side of the DMV area that you reside in, because I see more empire building happening with both six figures on both sides, with the black men and the black women and whatnot. And that's just been like a growing trend within the last, I say, 4 or 5 years. It's still brand new, but I'm happy to see that it's happening more and more here.
Well, definitely, I'm glad to see folks progressing. A woman's money I don't think it makes any more difference to fellas in D.C., but I do think what she is able to contribute to him and the assets that she's, the personal assets, not financial, but what she's able to do to help enhance what he's doing, I think that's an important thing. How cooperative are the black women up there in D.C.? Let me find out from you here. As a group, how cooperative do you judge them to be?
If I was going between 1 to 100 and whatnot, I think they're more cooperative, up to about 45% and whatnot.
Oh, that's not good.
And I'd say, yeah. Well, let me add on to that. Majority of the time, the ones that aren't as cooperative are the transplants. I think the ones that were like myself, born and raised in this area, no matter what side of the river they were born on and whatnot, I think they're much more cooperative and whatnot, because they see more of the brothers in this area, not only about their business, but they're about being leaders on all sides of the fence and whatnot. And they are willing to go to that man, six-figure earning man that's building something, and allow him to lead and whatnot in the way that men were supposed to lead.
Okay, that's interesting, because
but a lot of times
Trey echoed those sentiments. He also said that it seems y'all have issues with the folks who are not DC natives.
Exactly. A lot of times that they're coming from New York, or they're coming from the Northeast, or they're coming from parts of the Midwest or the West Coast. Sometimes some women from down south, a lot of times they're not as cooperative as one would expect and whatnot. But I will say most of the transplant women that come up here are usually the women that are from either Texas, parts of Louisiana and whatnot, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and the Carolinas. A lot of times it's the Atlanta area and Florida seems to be the women, the sisters that we have the most issues with up here.
Nobody's been able to get them straightened out?
Well, the brothers that got the brothers that have the time, they do. I mean, you know, I say they get half of the percentile of the women that come up here, they get them straightened out and whatnot. And then the other brothers, I think, like the previous caller said, they're like, hey, some brothers are like, look, I got my pick of the litter. So why do I need? I'm not even going to try to work harder on this person that's being a drama case, you know, disciplinary case and whatnot. When I see somebody else over here that's just as attractive, that has just as much going on and whatnot, and who wants to be cooperative, as you just stated. When you got options, you're dangerous. That's my personal opinion.
Well, I certainly thank you very much for giving us a call tonight and giving your insights. Please do give us a call again. We're talking to fellas about the D.C. area, but more importantly, and ladies, what is there to learn? Fellas, what is there to learn? You notice the guys got a lot different demeanors, not a whole bunch of complaining. The fellas who usually got the most complaints are the ones who have the least to offer. I think there's a correlation. Just saying. Seems like there's a bit of a correlation going on there. Let me get called from area code 787. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's up, Jason? This is Dr. Scott from D.C. We're Little Tyson, Virginia, Fairfax.
Okay, Dr. Scott from D.C. I hope your phone does better now. What's on your mind?
Yeah, my bad. Hey, we talked before, man. It's been some years, man. We chatted up. I'm the one that owned the hair salons. We talked a few years back. I don't know if you remember that, but we talked for a minute. But yeah, man, I'm right here at the heart of it all, man. I'm a Washingtonian, and I deal with women all day, the high value, quote unquote, women, and a lot of my clientele. Some of the former, Redskin players and some active players, some of the Wizards and stuff like that. But I'm very active in the community. I've done quite a bit of things here. I'm gonna tell you right now,
brother. I'll let you finish your last sentence here. I don't know what's going on tonight, but your phone is digitizing for something. I don't know if the FBI is messing with you or what, but your phone is really digitizing there. And it's gonna be difficult When you first start talking, you're kind of okay, but then it just starts digitizing, and you're starting to sound like Soundwave from the Transformers cartoon. So go ahead and make.
No, my bad. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Well,
I just
now
called. I don't even have you on speakerphone.
Now it stopped doing it. I hope it lasts. But go ahead and hurry up and make your statement before it starts again.
I know. Yeah, but I'm just saying, what the guys are talking about, there's some truth to that. But I'm gonna tell you, really, that a lot of the women here, man, if a man is on point, they're gonna really struggle to a large degree because a lot of women are here competing. Now, if you're a man that doesn't like yourself and myself, that's building, a lot of women are going to really have a pushback toward that. I'm going to tell you that straight up because like the brother said, you put the correlation together, a lot of women are making money, but they also want to compete at the same time. So if you're that type of level man, and you're not just doing government contracts, which a lot of brothers do, salute to those brothers, but you out here doing it on your own, you're going to get a lot of pushback, man. So I know that firsthand.
Well, that's a very good thing to know about there as well. I mean, but I don't know. How do you fellas up there feel about a woman being quote unquote competitive?
I don't like it at all. You know what I mean? I don't like that whole, because their attitude is different. You know what I mean? Because they're sizing you up because most men, like you said, a lot of these men don't really have it going on because most guys that's here, they're not from D.C. A lot of them are not. I'm not saying that don't mean that these guys are not about their business. But what I am saying, the mentality is different. So a lot of guys that's implants here, they kind of get along with it. A lot of guys, what they call simps, and, you know, a lot of guys are not as, authoritative as being men here. So I'm seeing a lot of the LGBTQ community has taken over D.C. We saw that by the voting. So a lot of these guys, I don't really know what they're talking about. I'm here. I deal with a lot of the guys that's in the city, that's doing business. It's not what they're saying. I don't know what they're looking at, but it's definitely not that. Now, if you're a man about your business, I mean, you got a good, decent job. Yeah, you can have women. Getting women is not a problem per se. But when you reach a certain level, no, these women are not, they're going to be more competing and trying to push you off your quote-unquote high horse, they call you.
Well, I think the great fallacy of a competitive woman, that is, a woman can't compete with a man. I didn't say she shouldn't. I said she can't, because we're not looking for the same things from each other. So a man's income makes him competitive versus other men. We ain't gonna be laid up for 9 months giving birth. We're not looking for maternity leave. We're not looking for someone to pay our way for 3 years or 5 years till the kids get into kindergarten. That's not what we do. So we compete against other men. Women compete against other women in order to get a man who will serve as that protector and provider so that she doesn't have to sit out here in this ultra competitive world, because a woman competing isn't a woman. A woman competing is a man, is what that is. Mm-hmm. And nobody's really, that's not really the kind of thing that drives a man or really encourages him to get out there and do more. So a competitive woman is not really what we're looking for, because our definition of what makes us competitive is not what makes women competitive. And there's the real problem, is when women start, even DC or wherever else, when they start putting a lot of credence onto their quote income, that your income is not an offset for your personality, for your femininity, for your gentle nature, for your ability to assist a man in what he's doing. Your income is not an offset for that. And I think a lot of them believe it is. So they're competing for something that we don't even want, is the real problem.
Man, I have so many clients, man, that work HR, CEOs, quote unquote, sisters that don't have no man. A whole lot of them. So I've been hearing this stuff for years. So I don't know, they get side dudes. They go through relationships like it ain't nothing. But most of them are not happy. They love to drink when they come and sit down. They need that. They need, Scott, do you have champagne? They want to take the pain away. But they do this over and over again, and they're not happy. So I see this firsthand. So all that stuff that they're talking about, they're not happy, man. They're not, and they don't know. And really, Jason, they haven't been built to even, they're not cultured to even build with a man that's serious. Like a person like myself, person like yourself, So that's really a lot of the pushback that you're seeing out here when you reach a certain point that you can produce. But having a good job, making good money, that's a lot of brothers that's doing that. But see, a lot of those guys, like I said, they just happy where they are. But when you shooting for the stars and you're actually producing and you can see the work, that's a problem. That's a whole nother dynamic.
I agree. Well, thank you very much, brother, for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Glad to hear from you. Let me get caller from area code 202. I see a bunch of 202 area code numbers tonight. DC is coming in on me. Caller from 202, you're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is Mr. KL Baldwin from DC.
All right, Mr. KL from DC. What's on your mind?
Hey, just wanted to talk about the coach of DC. No, I'm not a six-figure earner, but I'm on my way to it. But I just wanted to weigh in. The culture of DC, as far as the girls being fit, stuff like that, you got to understand. I know culture has taken this turn, and the big booty has come in. DC has always been about big booty. Good Lord. You had EU that came out with doing the butt back in the 80s. These women know that having a big butt is a status. So
yeah, but for who?
The right way,
but for who? There's the real problem, brother. I mean, that's the same thing everywhere. But the real question is, okay, having a big butt is status. Okay, but is that having a woman having a big butt as a singular asset? That's the thing that she leads with, and that's what really strikes a dude's fancy. My first question would be, what kind of dudes are we talking about? Are we talking about the fellas working on the construction side, or are we talking about the fellas who actually have their income and their status together, and they've actually got the option of picking and choosing what they want? Because if a guy narrows down a woman's beauty to her rear end, first thing I'm gonna do is look at his finances and be like, okay, what have you achieved in life that's made you so tunnel visioned?
Well, Jason, I'm from Southside D.C. I've been born and raised here. I left a little bit of time when I was in the military, but I'm back here. And everybody I hang out with, the first thing they know is, oh, dang, Shawty, look at Shawty's backside. Huh?
Yeah, but I doubt that. I doubt he's making $140,000 a year or more. I doubt that.
Exactly. But even still, the women are going to love the attention. They always do.
Right, but
they always bite.
But the same
give
fellas,
up the number or the Instagram
but
or whatever.
The same fellas who have that ultra simplistic standard, he's got a very basic, very mono standard. Those guys ain't producers. There's no benefit to his either his compliments nor his time. There's no benefit to it. He can't do anything except lay up with her. So then you realize that's more of a benefit to him than it is to her. So yeah, I mean, to the lowest common denominator dudes, the guys who are struggling, well, yeah, I expect to hear that from them. But then again, they'll lay up with the chubbies. They'll lay up with the single moms. They'll lay up with the attitude problems. They'll lay up with the disrespectful. Those guys don't have a standard. They're in a perpetual drought. They'll take whatever they can get. What about the fellas who have actually put in the work and have actually got the option of picking and choosing what they want?
Well, Jason, I'm not arguing with you. Like I said, I was just letting you know about the culture of the city. Now, about the men, yes, the men do have the pick of the litter. If you have the signs of what the women are looking for. So 9 times out of 10, that's your own spot. That's a car, some type of higher echelon than a Kia or whatever. I mean, some of these women out there talking about, oh, he got to drive this, and he got to drive a Mercedes, he got to drive a BM. That's a lie. That's a lie. The baddest bro will hop and the daggone Ekis or whatever.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Let's talk about that for a moment, because there's what the women say, and then there's what they do. And you all know the rule I taught you. You cannot choose from the options you wish were available. You can only choose from the options that actually are available. So yes, while in your fantasy, you might want the guy driving a Maybach, in reality, you can't choose that if there are no Maybach owning men available. you're going to have to choose something else, whether you wish to or whether you don't. Either that, or you're going to choose to be by yourself or whatever, and I guess that's an option as well. But obviously, based on these sexual histories and STD rate, clearly that's not what they're doing. They're certainly not opting to be by themselves. So in your opinion here, how many of those women are claiming that they want to do with the BMW 7 Series, or the S-Class, but in reality, they'll gladly take the fella making $60,000 a year, pushing a Buick. What do you think of that?
See it all the time. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. And the ones who are getting into the S-Classes, 7 Series, those are the women who did put forth extra effort, put in the time, got their body right, are going to be cooperative. These women, Jason, don't get it twisted. I'm just letting you know about the coaching. But I understand these women know what it takes to keep a man. They're not dumb. But are they doing what they're supposed to do? 9 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, no. They're not doing it. Get in the gym. Carry yourself with some dignity in the streets. Have something going about yourself. Educate yourself about anything that peak value men consider valuable. And you'll be able to talk with them in their circles, where they're at. This is D.C. You've talked to other people from D.C. tonight. It is a small area. You're going to run into the same people again and again and again. You have no choice. As a woman, you have no choice to run into a peak value man. They're all over the place. They're not putting in the effort to go and lock them down.
Why do you think they're not putting in the effort?
Because they think they get whatever rear end they got, they getting attention, so they'll take the attention they get. They're going to get attention. They're going to get attention because that's the culture of the city.
Yeah, the problem is attention is not an actual tangible property, and eventually they grow old, and not even old. They just grow bitter. They're young and bitter today. They're not even making it to old and bitter anymore. They're in their 20s and bitter because all they can get is booty attention, but they can't get any actual concrete benefits.
Well, Jason, I'm not even talking about the young girls. This 30 or 40-year-old women do the same thing.
Well, it's becoming a sad situation all the way around. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, brother. Please do give us a call again. Let me get caller from area code 202. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is David.
David. Why does that name
David from Washington, D.C.
Why does that name sound so familiar? David from Washington, D.C. David? Have I spoken?
Yes, sir.
Have I spoken to you before?
No, sir. This is your first time caller, a long time listener. I appreciate everything you do. I love the new black media. I wanted to call in tonight because I'm from Washington, D.C., born and raised.
All right, David.
And I still live here now.
We'll see, David. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to call in from D.C. I agree with some of the things the callers are saying. Some things I disagree with. Of course, you're not going to agree with everything. But just calling in from Washington, D.C., personally, I mean, there's some dudes that's doing it here in D.C., but I see both sides of the spectrum. I make 6 figures, but it takes me 2 jobs to make 6 figures. Like the gentleman said, I work with the D.C. government, and I'm a federal contractor as well. But if it wasn't for the federal contractor position, I would be struggling. I wouldn't say I'd be struggling, but I wouldn't be living in D.C. because the rent is so high. My rent was $2,700 a month living in D.C., in Southwest D.C. at the Wharf.
Wow,
and
what were you doing there?
I'm not calling a boasting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm listening.
Why did you choose to live there?
Well, sir, like I said, I grew up in D.C. I love D.C. I mean, all the action is in D.C.
Yeah, but you could have found a cheaper place to live than that.
Well, before that, I was paying $2,900, and I was living on 8th Street in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with my girlfriend at the time. I mean, I enjoy luxury apartment living. I don't have a car. I do Uber. I sold my car, so I live and work in D.C. So it's more appropriate for me to not have a car and pay higher rent than it would be for me to have a car, drive into the city, and look for parking or what have you, or pay for Metro. I can just get on a bike, get to work, and I can get back from working home. I don't have to sit in traffic or nothing like that, sir.
Well, I mean, if it works for you, I don't have a problem with it if it works for you there. It's just, I'm like, okay. Eventually, I can see how that could get to be a little bit of a grind for you there. Well, thank you very much for giving us a call back. Please do give us a call again. Let me get call of Mary Code 347. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Bob from Bronx.
Bob from the Bronx. What's on your mind?
How you doing? No, one of my observations is how everyone's so analytical about dating and stuff like that. It's like,
well, I don't really discuss dating. I discuss
so
power.
About
I don't discuss dating. I do power dynamics. But
everyone has a type. If a woman can't find a man here, she's gonna go. If she's overweight, if she can't find a man here, guess what? She's gonna pick herself up and gather other fat friends, and they're gonna go to Jamaica and she's gonna find a local over there that's gonna love them, and that's that. We don't have to keep harping on a woman's weight and blah blah.
Sir, where are you from?
What do you mean where am I from?
I hear an accent in your voice. Where are your people from?
What difference does that make?
Okay, because New York, you got some cats. New York is really divided up into two camps. It's divided up.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
New York is mostly West Indian.
Sir, shut the hell up.
Who the fuck you think you're talking to?
I'm talking to a broke jive ass nigga from the Bronx. That's who I'm talking to.
All right, I'll invite you here, and
sir, I'm not gonna come. I'm not gonna come to your street corner under your tent.
You sound like a child. How do you know I'm broke?
Because you like size 16.
How old are you?
Because only broke niggas from the Bronx like size 16s and brag about it. That's why.
I didn't say I like size.
Yes, you do. You called in to play Johnny Cochran for him.
I'm far from broke.
Get your broke ass off my phone, you moron. Why'd that matter? Because there's the fellas in New York who are on it and about their business and have standards. And then these broke immigrants, no shade, but y'all know y'all got to hold this L. They come from St. Croix. They come from Nassau. Why you got to be so analytical about it? I mean, if she big and fat, she got 4 or 5 kids, she can go to Jamaica. We'll take her. Okay. Yeah, nigga, you'll take her. No, everybody else is not going to do that. Why be so analytical? Because human beings think. Homo sapiens consider things. They don't just do things. Down there in that broke bummy contingent in the world, y'all just do things. We don't just do things. We think about it up here. We weigh our options. We carefully contemplate our decisions. Where you people from? Oh, hell. No, nigga. Tell me about that dirt bike area they come from. What you saying adds up to a specific thing. Everybody's not like you. Everybody's not trying to bypass standards. Everybody ain't going to just sleep with whatever in the hell they can get next to. Everybody's not like you, man. Everybody's not living where you at. Everybody's not scrapping and scraping where you are. Call of Mary Code 202. Let me get back to D.C. since New York came to bust up the game. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is Eric Archer, the real estate man, and I'm calling from Washington, D.C. How you doing tonight?
Eric, my man, what's going on?
It ain't nothing. I see you got like a lot of topics going on with like the 6-figure and the climate of D.C. And I just want to say I used to be a branch manager at a bank making close to like $70,000 and doing real estate on the side. And I noticed that, I've been living up here since like 29, I moved here in 2013, so I'm an implant, but I caught on and adapted to the environment real quickly. And I'm here to tell you, man, that black folks are not really doing too good financially in D.C.
because they got like a large homeless population. And when they say gentrification in D.C., what they mean is that like the baby boomers who bought homes back in the 70s and 80s, you know, the kids waiting on them to die so they can cash out and sell a house to some developers for $200,000 or $300,000, and the developers come and, you know, gut it out, and they sell them for $700,000 and $800,000. So I've been in the real estate business up here for like 7 years, and when I do open houses on the weekends, I hardly ever see black folks come by to check out these homes I'm trying to sell. So, yeah.
Well, do you think that the fellas up there in particular, do you think they're doing better? I mean, if they're selling and is making things better for them, I don't know. Maybe I'll agree with that or not, but is it going better for them or what?
Okay, my fault. Jason, you got like the young guys, like a lot of these guys got records. Like I think they got like a 50%, 60% unemployment rate for like teens from like ages 15 to 21 or something like that. But you got jobs like Metro, you know, the guys who drive the train, and you got a couple of government workers who work for like the Department of Transportation and places like LaFont Plaza. But that's like a small percentage of people, and most of those people, they are like most of them are like Washingtonians, but most of them like moved out to Maryland, like Bowie and Waldorf and places like Clinton, like a little at Forestville, Maryland, like little cheap places, like on the southern end of Maryland. So yeah, and as far as like you guys were talking about places like Fairfax and them high places in Virginia, that's where the politicians live. You got Fairfax, you got Falls Church, and you got like McLean, Virginia, on the backside of Springfield out there, and that's where like the property values are pretty high where the politicians live. And then with the athletes live in like Potomac, Maryland, Bethesda, Maryland, and Chevy Chase, Maryland, you know, where the starting prices of homes go for like $1.2 billion. So yeah, I'm all over these states, you know, since I'm in the real estate business, so I know what I'm talking about.
All right, and let me find out here, in your opinion, are the fellas in D.C., and I don't talk about dating. I'm not the least bit interested in dating. I am interested in power dynamics. Would you say that, let me find out here, how old are you?
I'm 37 years old. Just turned 37.
You're 37 years old. About how much you make a year
Yes,
up there
sir.
doing real estate?
I'm trying to hit 6 figures. I'm like 70, 75-ish.
Okay. In D.C., in your age range here, you should at least be able to know about the last 10 years, per se. Would you say that black men in D.C. are more respected or less respected as a group, at a basic social status level, than they were 10 years ago?
No, sir. I'm gonna have to say they're not really respected because of the lack of jobs, opportunities, and the homeless population. Because you see these young guys, I mean, they like 18, 17, 21 begging for money, and you know a lot of them are unemployed, so they're not really respected. You got like a lot of gays are coming into the city, and they are like coupled up, and they got like most of them got like masters and graduate degrees. And they're taking over jobs. So if you're not part of the LGBT community, you're not going to get a high-paying job. And you got the black women up here, you know, like you got these little cliques, AKAs, and little Howard girls and all that. And they clicked up too. So and most of them want to be feminists. So they kind of looking out for their own. So black men, we don't really have anybody. We don't really have any networks up here. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's why we don't have any power. So.
Well, you will either stick together or hang separately. That's the way that goes.
Yeah. So I said you got a couple of. I like working in the banking industry. I was the manager. I had like a couple of high profile clients like Elaine Child, Mitch McConnell's wife, Dikembe Mutombo, and a couple other big name clients. But yeah, man, I used to them 6-figure black folks used to come into the bank. You know, most of them live check to check. Because when they closed the government down a couple of years ago, I mean, they were hurting the most of everybody, you know. So I don't know what they do with their money. And most of them don't even live in D.C., even though they're from there. But like I said, Bowie, Clinton, Waldorf, and places like that, like on the south end, you know, where the rent is a little cheaper and you can buy a home cheap and it's nice too. So I don't know, man. Our people, the cities like this kind of exploit our people, and it really shows how bad we're doing. Because like if you go downtown to like on Indiana Avenue by the police station to the eviction office and all that,
you see all the black people folks in there, like 99% of the people are black, so it's kind of crazy, man. So I don't know. Just feel kind of sorry for people, man, right now.
All right. Well, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Let me get caller from area code 301. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Mr. Black. This is Royal Me. I'm calling from Mechanicsville, Maryland.
Hello, Royal Me. And you had
Hi, I'm
choice.
Sorry. I'm completely nervous.
No need for that. You had some choice comments in the chat room. I figured I would give you an opportunity to actually speak to me about it.
Yes. Before I go forward with my question, I do want to say that I have been listening, and I do thank all the gentlemen that have called and offered their insight. I really do appreciate that. The only question that I had for you, and I was hoping that you could provide me with some more wisdom, is that you had mentioned that one of your gentlemen, I believe his name was Ty, that was married to the Spanish young lady. I remember hearing a previous podcast where you said that, the amount of knowledge you have on something is limited because you're speaking on something that you don't have experience with. Well, I do, value his input, but my question for you, and maybe you can clarify this for me, is that, when you're married to somebody who's a non-foundational Black American and you are in a position where you're able to make six figures, how are you qualified to discuss I guess my question is, how are you qualified to discuss what will keep or what will attract you to a Black woman, or what a Black woman would need to do to capture you or for you to catch her if you're not married to one, or if you're not, if you're not in a position where you're looking for that?
Okay. What you ask is a very good question.
You don't understand my question?
Yes, ma'am. I understand your question. What you ask is a very good
Thank
question.
You.
And I want you to listen. I want all the women out there to listen in particular. And to the fellas, I want you all to listen also so that you can get a proper understanding of this. The reason why I had to start the business, and people out there can rip off my philosophies and attempt to repackage them, but when questions like this get asked, they don't give cogent, practical answers to it. I want to give you a cogent, practical answer that you can carry through life with you. Sometimes you will get an ambitious individual who will attempt to call up to my program for some insane reason and attempt to question me because they think they're going to be the first one who's going to take down Jason Black. And they figure it all comes down to an overly simplistic question. Well, Jason, are you married? And if you'll all remember, I had this conversation with LaToya, who will not be joining us for the rest of her life. In any case, sometimes you get somebody who thinks they're going to be super slick and ask something like that. Well, Jason, are you married? Well, absolutely not. No, I've never been married. Well, then how is it that you can speak on marriage? Okay. The reason why is because I'm not an expert on being married. I speak for the men who are not married but are eligible to become married. Now, a guy who is already married cannot tell you, now listen very carefully here, May, he can't tell you what it is that the single men who are still eligible to be married want. Now, there's a fallacy there. You might think because a guy is married that he can tell you what those who are single are looking for at this point. Not really. He can tell you what they were. He can tell you if he concurs, but he can't tell you what's happening on the ground out here. He can't tell you how we're responding to the environment. He's not eligible. Now, you see, I can tell you why the men who are eligible to marry you are not marrying you. Now, I can tell you that because I'm one of them. And if I tell you that this is why we are not doing it, well, there's where my credibility comes from. So, no, I'm not here to talk about the folks who are married. I'm just here to tell the ones who are not, the women who are not, why you aren't. There's where my level of insight comes from. So the ones who are wondering, they want to talk about now, well, how do you know? Baby, I speak for the eligible bachelors. You can look at a guy who's already married and he can give you some insights. Sure, he can. But as far as who speaks for the ones who are actually eligible to marry you, I speak for them. I speak for that. Now, that's a brutal reality for women to accept. That is a brutal reality. It's like, on the one hand, it's like, okay, the guys who are married can tell you why he wouldn't marry you, and then the guys who are single can tell you that. I can just tell you why the guys who are still single out here said no to you. The guy who is married, his answer is no, but it has to be. But for those of us who have the option of saying yes, I can tell you why we're saying no. Because remember, women are the gatekeepers to sex, but we, the men, we're the gatekeepers to marriage. And I can tell you why the men who are eligible for marriage are keeping the gate closed for certain types of women. I can tell you why. I can validate if the married man's advice to you or statements to you are accurate. I can validate that. Because he's speaking from what he remembers. I'm speaking from what I'm living. Now, to the fellow you're referring to, now that I've given you that little bit of backstory, what does that have to do with the guy we were talking about there? Ma'am, like it or not, 25 years old. He's fairly articulate. Whether you want to give credence to everything he said or not, the real question here is, why was he eligible and why did he say no? Because the thing that you have to remember as a woman is why is it that in his opinion the black women were not competitive? That is something to know and to think about and understand. Because in the world I come from, a woman's job is to be irresistible. And if it was easy to resist, you have to start taking an inventory. When you lose this many games, when you lose this many championships, you need to stop looking at everybody else and saying, why are you so critical? You need to look at yourself and say, why am I attracting so much criticism? So whether you like it or not, he speaks from the perspective of a black male who comes from black cities, had every opportunity, and he chose an older Latina that he met at a damn golf game. And I didn't ask him some really damaging questions like, by the way, how many black women were there? I didn't ask him about what kind of conversations they have. I didn't ask the really damaging questions that I could have asked. I didn't do that. But this is a moment of you have to be brutally frank with yourselves and ask yourselves, by the way, he was eligible too. Why did he say no? Now, it's one thing when you have a whacked out psych job like Crystal and Karazhan. It's one thing when you got that, who obviously she is obsessed with black men. That fella, baby, he wasn't thinking about black women. He's a young black male in what used to be Chocolate City, and he's not thinking about black women. And yes, he is a transplant. My point is, think about that for a few moments. He fully acknowledges, there's a lot of women, black women here who do, make that type of money or status or whatever. But yeah, that at a young age, he's like, wasn't really doing that. And you need to take some inventory and say, hey, let's take a look at ourselves right quick and ask ourselves a basic question. Whether you like it or not, that guy was one of the eligible. You would do yourself a tremendous disservice if you just ignore out of hand why it is that you were potential candidates and yet ultimately didn't make the cut. Because that's something you need to know. It's not like black women are out here killing the game in relationships. It's not like black women out here have an 80% marriage rate and that guy was an outlier. He's not an outlier. Why does his opinion matter? Because he's not an outlier. That's why.
May I ask just one more question, sir, before I go?
You can ask a couple more questions. You need them.
I'm sorry?
You can ask a couple of more questions. You need to.
Well, I'm definitely soaking up the game here. I guess my next question is, so you had mentioned also previously that a woman can only choose from the options that are available to her, not what she wishes she had available. So in certain instances in D.C., and I'm sure some of my fellow Washingtonians in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, gals can attest to this, is that sometimes where we are located, and at the time of the location, there isn't such options available at the time. Both of the gentlemen said at one point they weren't, making six figures, and so just listening to your previous podcast, your previous programs, and their feedback. I guess my question is, how does a woman gauge when she should, claw in and hold on?
Okay.
Versus, working with him to grow that.
Eventually.
Grow that to the six.
Well, eventually, I am going to do a program that is going to deal with that more in depth. But I just have to be brutally honest with you here, ma'am. Black women in these cities are not getting with six-figure white men. They're not getting with white men who are producers. They're just getting with average white dudes. And being Susie Homemaker right off the back. That's plantation slave mammy stuff. It's not like black women are getting the best and brightest. It's not like they're getting the best eligible bachelors among white men. It's not like that's happening. So what I'm saying is, when it comes to choosing a white man, all of a sudden, those standards they have for black men are suddenly become non-existent. And I'm going to be brutally frank and say what I'm about to say next. As a group, not as individuals, not as exceptions to the rule. That is the rule. A black man has to have all of his stuff together and be producing from the age of damn me 20. And furthermore, it's not like the black women are killing the game either. I mean, they'll be working at the same job he's working at and sitting up here with some fantasy that as a black male now he's got to deliver six figures. But white men, all they have to do is deliver their presence. They don't have to produce anything. She'll sit there with him for 20 years and his whiteness is reward enough. So one of the issues that we face is that there's this huge, tremendous double standard where they act like they don't know how. With a black male, we don't know how to. It's always these extremes. Either they grab Pookie and Ray Ray, who do nothing for them. They grab a white dude who's doing nothing. If they meet a black male who is sensible, now there's the one thing. He's not trying to get you pregnant. He gets up every day and he's about his business. It might not be paying off for him just yet, but he gets up every day and he's about his business. And that's boring. Let's just be very, very clear. That's the attitude that most black females give to that. Oh, he's square. He's boring. Now, the white guy can be square and boring and white. But the black male, he can't be square. He can't be boring. He can't be broke. It's just this never-ending schizophrenic laundry list of things. But yet in other situations it doesn't show up. So what I'm saying is that the women have to stop being hypocritical, have to stop being contradictory, because it's only hurting the women. Remember, time is a woman's adversary. Time is a man's ally. Why? Because your looks and sexuality will fade within 10 years. Money ain't never gonna go out of style. And the man has the rest of his life to keep doubling it and doubling it and doubling it. What gives him worth never tarnishes, never fades, and never diminishes. What gives a woman worth isn't the same thing. It fades, it diminishes rather quickly. So what I'm saying is these bad judgment calls, they annoy men early, but then they go away. But they devastate women for the rest of their lives. That's why it's so critical that you be able to spot a man who is serious, he's building, he's got all the building blocks in place. And you need to be able to sit there and do that, because when it's a white dude, all of a sudden they got patience. All of a sudden they got a sweet attitude. All of a sudden, all these things that the black males who were nerdy and in college and whatnot, all the things they couldn't get, that's a problem. Let me just say one more thing. It's also not a situation of being able to identify them. Let's just be very, very clear about that. That young man he must have gone to get out at 25 like he was in engineering. He would have had to been doing that in his 20s. He would have had to been doing that out of high school. And doing that, he would have been called a computer nerd and a geek and this, that, and the other. And that's the way they're treated. Black women don't cherish the nerds. The kids who are going, the young men who are going to school to become the most intelligent, the most capable, they don't appreciate that. As a matter of fact, they mock it as a group. As a group, black females mock it. Now, when it's a white dude, all of a sudden it's great. But when it's a black male, all of a sudden it's something to be mocked and ridiculed. So let's not pretend that they don't see it. They do see it. They have disrespect and disdain when it's a black male doing it. They bow and worship when it's a white male doing it. And that's the problem.
Okay, I don't agree. I don't disagree with your observation on that. As a whole, you're absolutely correct. As an individual, I can only speak for myself. I kind of like the nerd, and I do like a man that's about his business and trying to build.
How old are you?
I'm 30. I'm 32, sir.
Okay, you're 32, and let me ask. What size?
Oh God.
What size do you wear? Be honest.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yes.
Right now, I'm a 14.
All right. So.
I was smaller. Okay. I do know I have work to do. I'm not gonna lie to you on that.
Here. If was a fifth,
I'm not gonna sit here and lie.
If was a fifth and was an ounce, we'd all be drunk and high right now. Let me tell you. I want you to think about. I want you to think about this for just a few moments, okay? I just want you to think about this, sir. Because here's the issue, and you're an otherwise nice, affable young lady, and we appreciate that. But I want you to think about something here for just a few moments, and this is important. At 32 years old, did you say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Think about this for just a few moments. What type of reward do you think that is for a young man who has already been ridiculed through his middle school years and high school years because the bastard baby maker generation, the single mothers of the last 2-3 generations they're raising 80% of the black children and raising them to be backward thinking in low level individuals. So when you do have a young black male who has somehow been able to survive that gauntlet of ignorance that these women have created in their children, and he's actually aspiring to something better, think about that for a few moments. What type of reward is that? What does that communicate to him? Let me try harder. Let me do more. Let me be the smartest and the best and the brightest. Let me go through all that work so I can get so I can go kick it with the size 14s. Think about that for just a few moments. Don't say anything just yet. Don't say nothing. Think about that for just a few moments. That he's watching these other fellows out here, other men of other races, and their women don't think it's appropriate to bring a producer her worst behavior, her lack of discipline. She wants a man who has disciplined himself, and she is completely devoid of discipline. And by the way, one more thing. Do you all realize what an insult this is to our intelligence? For women, we don't even require you. Do you realize that men have been saying the list of requirements is so small? We're not asking you to get a job that pays 7 figures, 6 figures, 5. We're not asking you to do. Literally, women don't have to develop muscle tone. When women go to the gym, all y'all do is some little old bull jive ass cardio. You walk for a mile or two, and then that's it. As long as you're not going to Burger King every other day, you'll be fine. When men go to the gym, we got to do actual work. We have to actually develop muscle tone. We have to actually build size. We got to do real work. All y'all have to do is keep the fat off. Even for men, even for exercise, being physically fit, it ain't enough to do that. We can't just keep the fat off. We have to get the fat off and put muscle on. So we not only do we have to do 3 times as much producing socioeconomically, we got to do 3 times as much physically. And the women are telling us that they can't even be bothered to do that. Think about that for a few moments, because this comes down to a respect issue. That you've got men who are out here trying and putting in effort. And what you're saying is, I love the nerds. I want you to think about this. And this is coming from Jason Black, a lifelong nerd, by the way. That doesn't make me feel any better. That's not a compliment to me. That the size 14s look at me and say, that's the guy I want. And I'm like, but how does she represent me? How does that, is that the representative of my life that I want? Because your woman is your representative. Is this what I want speaking for me and the work I put in?
Well, sir, if I could be honest with you and without completely interrupting, I do understand that, and after listening to your programs, I do, I am, believe it or not, I am athletic. Being here in the country is all land out here, so I do understand that, getting my
baby. If you were athletic, and with all due respect, if you were quote athletic, you would not be a size 14. Unless you're a power lifter. With all due respect, I hate it when women do that. That's an insult to our intelligence. Can we just be honest? Unless you're a power lifter for the U.S. Olympic team.
I do sport that. I am active, but yes,
okay, ma'am. Okay, let me try this again. Let me try this one more time. Is your sport powerlifting?
No, sir, it is not.
Okay. Then there's no way you are an athletic size 14, nor have you ever really been athletic. I'm not being mean. I'm just saying, please, let's stop doing these personally dishonest statements. Let's get to where ground zero really is, so we can have a honest to goodness, heart to heart, for real conversation about what really needs to happen. Let's stop selling all these fairy tales. Unless you are a power lifter, you're not a size 14 athletic. You're not. Well, I'm in a rural area.
Okay,
I'm in a rural area. Are you picking up cows literally and pulling tractors? Because if you are, maybe you are, but no. And I mean literally, you can pick them up over your head. We know I'm being facetious. So what I'm saying is that doesn't serve us.
We don't pick up cows here, sir.
I know. I'm from Louisiana. That doesn't. What I'm saying is, just notice, to all the nerds, think about what that says to them. That says to them that, well, she supports us, and the problem is there are no producers competing for a size 14, is what I'm trying to say.
And I understand. I understand that, and I am working on my weight, but I guess I say all of that to say that, for someone like me, I am looking for that producer. I'm not, one of those women in DC that's, so focused on competing. I know there's really no competition when it comes to, a black man and, helping him move along. Again, it just goes back to what I had mentioned before about how do you know when to stick with him and build versus, having him, come to you after, if all of your ducks are in a row, your weight and everything, you're, well,
that's
a learned
the
woman,
thing.
you're, coachable and you're moldable.
There you go. Now, there you go. And I want, before I let you go here, to everybody who was wondering here before, she's starting to get it. No, you cannot compete with them. But let me give you the final piece of advice. Ma'am, when your looks, when the outside matches the inside in a positive way, when you show a man that you're intelligent about your fitness and well-being, as well as your intellect and your demeanor, when all of those are in balance, you will not have to wonder if the man you're talking to is a producer. The producers come to find you because you're what they're looking for, because you are going to be a good representative of what he's trying to do. But if you're a size 14 and all you have is potential, peak femininity to offer, then you are going to continue to be in the company of the men who are only offering potential productivity. And you all have heard me use that phrase before, only in the reverse. A fella is offering a woman potential resources, therefore she offers him potential companionship. Baby, if you want a man if you really want to be able to filter out the guys who are not producing, that's easy. Look like and act like you belong on the arm of a producer. And the guys who ain't producing, it's going to be very, very clear to them, oh, hell, they won't even approach you because they're going to look at you and know better. They're going to have a sheepdog look like, I know I'm going to get shot down, but let me cat call anyway. Let me cat call anyway. I know I'm going to get shot down, but let me cat call anyway. He cat calls, you keep walking. A producer is going to approach you correctly. So when a woman is on point, it takes all the guesswork out of it. The problem is you all want to approach a man. You ain't got yourselves together. Therefore, the only men who are really going to keep talking to you are the ones who likewise don't have it together yet. Now it's a guessing game. Oh, yeah. And one more thing. If you're a woman who's put herself together, your mind state is going to allow you to identify men who are on the same wavelength, putting themselves together. Hustle recognizes hustle. Okay. Real recognizes real. Accomplishment and achievement, stair step by stair step, recognizes accomplishment and achievement, stair step by stair step. When you are progressing in your feminine purpose, you are going to be able to identify men who are also progressing in their masculine purpose. It removes the guesswork from it. The only time you can't see it is if you're not moving.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your insight. And again, thank all the gentlemen that called earlier. I'm definitely going to take it, and I've got work to do. So thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Real recognizes real, people. Real recognizes real. Let me get caller from area code 202. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller from 202, last try, you're on live.
Hello, my name is Justin.
Wake up, dude. Okay, he is over there hitting the pipe. Let me get caller from area code 562, you're on live with The Business. What's your name, where are you calling from?
How you doing? My name is Elton Massey. I'm from Southeast DC, and I live in both Long Beach, California, and in DC as well, because I do business in both.
All right,
and
Elton,
I can speak to both your LA show and your DC show, because I was born and raised in DC, but I do both. And the thing that I noticed was when I got my doctorate out here at USC, and the women I dated, and I was getting my doctorate, the sisters left me because I was broke in school. And it was a crazy thing that they were sitting here waiting for the degree, waiting for the job, things of that nature. But the other groups of women, Cambodians, the white women, you pick your poison. You know, they laid themselves out. And I just, to this day, when you're talking about the nerd thing, you know, they couldn't even wrap their mind around it, a lot of the sisters. You know, and the ones that did, you know, quote unquote, have a master's or whatever, you know, they almost took it as a competition and an insult and didn't want to deal. And I just found it to be quite terrible, to be honest with you.
Well,
and I love
it's amazing.
Kids.
It's amazing how nobody has patience for black men. And I'm talking about from high school, middle school. I mean, it doesn't matter where along the line we are. So for black men, it's amazing where they don't have patience. But for a white dude, they will just assume that his whiteness guarantees his success. So all of a sudden, it's like that's treated like a sure thing. That's treated like a guarantee. It's only black men who have to produce and have to perform, but everybody else is treated like, well, don't worry, it'll happen.
I literally had to take a sister into the Library of Congress and pull up my dissertation to prove to her that I actually wrote the damn thing. You know, I mean, I was like, really? So, you know, I follow your show, appreciate it. Happy for the young brothers. And just like what you said earlier, I'm an eligible bachelor, you know, tell the young lady who's size 14, keto and bodybuild a little bit, because on both sides of the coast, big girls don't even get called in the middle of the night no more.
But brother, you know, I mean, the real shame of that, though, I mean, I really have to say this. The real shame of it is, as men, we have to actually do real work to increase our value. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, but we have to do actual real work. We have to actually do something.
And be able to take losses.
Well, I mean, let me go step by step of that. As a man, as a woman, she can sit here. It doesn't matter what job she takes, as long as she takes it, she's always a maiden. But for men, we got to make six figures. We got to make 500,000. We got to make $1 million. We have to be able to support ourselves and 3 or 4 other people. No matter how we're treated. We're supposed to just shake it off and off we go. If that's for our finances to look good. For us to look good, you got to be 6'2". For the women, it doesn't matter how short they are. They can be damn me, mini me. But that's okay. But for the men, you got to be 6'4" and Idris Elba and, you know, you this much money in the bank. And when we go to the gym, we actually got to pick up heavy stuff. We got to actually build muscle. The thing is, women don't even have to build muscle. All they got to do is keep the fat off. And what I'm saying is, even a bar that low, can you imagine how much easier it would be for you and me if all we had to do was 30 minutes of cardio 3 times a week? Could you imagine how much easier our lives would be?
I do 90 minutes of cardio in the morning, and I don't even count that as a workout. 45 on my spin bike, and then I run around the neighborhood, and then I get dressed and go do my thing, and that's at 5 in the morning. And then, but the thing is,
but then some size 16 is going to come to us and tell us about how fortunate and privileged we are. And what I'm saying is, the bar is so damn low. All you have to do is eat some lettuce, which is a female. You're supposed to be eating plant-based diet anyway, but you're not supposed to be bulking up on protein. Men can do that because we're supposed to be building muscle. As a female, you're not supposed to be sitting here like the damn Hamburglar with a Baconator in your hands. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. So as men, we got to do real work to get these accomplishments. And the women are giving us excuses.
But the thing is, I agree with you. But the thing about it is, I'm older. I just turned 50 in November. And I saw much of these women make a few dollars. To be frank with you, I've noticed they get career stall at about 35, okay? Maybe 40. But very rarely do they get to the C-suite. Very rarely do they get a very successful practice, you know? And that gets down to, on a Saturday night, you just going to be sitting there going through, doing research. You're going to be sitting there working on whatever your business is. And to be honest with you, I make time to sit here and have a scotch and a cigar, but it ain't, you know, I don't sit there and drink white wine with my girlfriends all the time. I got 3 friends in the whole world. And that's, I talk to them, every few months, because you got to be out here. And so when I hear about they killing it, no, they got a job. And this pandemic has shown that's all they got is a job. And I just don't understand the priorities that they've taken. They don't value the power of femininity. I'm dating a Cambodian woman that she gives me a bath every time she comes over. I mean, it's delicious almost, you know? I mean, what's wrong with being feminine? What's wrong with coming in and making a meal in a man's house, bringing the groceries too? What's wrong with these things? I don't see that with the sisters. And if I'm wrong, point me to where I'm going. And then they don't want to try new things. Like I sail. Just to move out of California, I sail. I'm part owner of a sailboat. They don't want to go out and sail. They don't really want to learn how to play golf. They don't want, it's just so many things they don't want to do that they've never done.
But they twerk. They've done threesomes. They've kissed a girl. They dated a felon. They were in his car when he was in a police chase. Now they've done that, But and isn't that the amazing part? They don't want to go to a golf course, but they want a man who can afford to go to a country club.
I'm listening to this, and I follow you, and I follow your other channel. You on point 97% of the time, and the other 3, I go with my ignorance and just assume I don't know.
Thank you. That's the best way to do it. He's right 97% of the time, and for the 3% you're not sure about, just assume he's still right, and there's just something you don't know. This is exactly what we need. I'm gonna have you sit people down and give workshops on how to listen to my program. That's good.
Well, anyway, y'all have a good night. I'm going back to my fire pit and listen to you put you back on my speaker. You have a good night, and everybody, keep your ass inside.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Couple of ladies in the chat room had some specific statements. I'm inviting them to go ahead and call up, and by invitation, I mean you will be required to call in. Since you had so much to say in my chat room, it's about time. You need to go ahead and call up and say that. Don't be a coward. You got something to say. There's a telephone number on your screen that you can call. We don't allow people to sit there in the chat room. If it's important enough for you to say it in the chat, you can go ahead and say it here. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933, your access code to the business. Before I go any further, of course, as always, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to tonight's program in these Streamlabs, Super Chat, and Cash App. Thank you very much for doing that as well. Shin Terrell, as always, you got it. My man Black Voltron Reloaded, that's the dude. Lamando, thank you very much for that as well here. And in the Cash App, Joseph Giles, thank you very much for that as well. Russell, that's my man right there as always. I appreciate it. And to everyone who has there, I'll be sending you a thanks here in a moment, but thank you very much for doing that as well. We appreciate your support on tonight's program here. Let me get caller from area code 202. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller from 202. Last try. You're on live. My folks in D.C. are hitting the pike tonight. It's not a good look. Caller from area code 864. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Okay.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Lonnie, calling in from Philly.
Okay, the folks out there playing around on their phones. Wake up,
Hey,
Lonnie.
my name's Lonnie. I'm calling in from Philly.
All right, Lonnie, what's on your mind?
All right. Hey, so I wanted to say that, so currently I work in tech, and I'm progressing in my career. Right now, my salary is $80K, somewhere in the early 80s. And so I am interested in dating black women, but I want to give black women hope, let them know that I don't necessarily feel like I am only like somehow I'm entitled to like supermodels at the salary. Like I'm willing to date an average woman, and build a life with her. And even a size 14 lady, perhaps we could lose weight together. Like I'm not at exactly my ideal fitness goals at the moment. Like right now we're a size 38, but I would like to slim down some myself from like COVID, being sheltered in and everything like that. So I would hope that, we can reach a place where we focus on how we bring value to each other outside of looks, because a woman has a lot more to offer than her physical appearance.
Well, yes, I'm sure she does. However, as men, women are our representatives. So that means that means something. Just as men, we are women's socioeconomic representative. We are their validation to other women of what the value is that she has to men. And likewise, I mean, let's just be clear. If this woman is going to carry your genetic legacy, do you want an ugly carrier? Do you want a carrier who is going to give you... If the carrier is not fit to take care of herself, how is she going to be fit to take care of your legacy?
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking about as far as like what can she provide as a mother to my children, like thinking about her qualities in terms of like us sharing morals and aligning with, you know, the purpose that I have to be a great helpmate. She might be, I don't overlook, you know, the so-called plain Jane girls, because it's just like, yeah, like she could easily upgrade herself or want to make changes after she gets with me, you know. I might boost her self-esteem somehow also.
Well, I mean,
I try my best to avoid those chicks that are like on that whole Megan Thee Stallion, taking pics ass first type thing. Like that does nothing for me. I want a woman who actually respects herself.
Well, having standards is important because I can teach a guy how to make money. I can't teach him how to have personal standards. I can't teach him, you know, how to value a woman of capability and substance. I can't teach him how to do that. I can tell him it's important, but I can't teach him how to do that. I can't make him do that. So certainly if you have the right perspective on it and the right vision about it, that's going to be very important as well. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Let me give me a caller at area code 972. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from? This Negro is fighting with his phone. Try again.
Yakanan calling from Dallas by way of Shreveport.
Okay, calling in from my hometown. What's on your mind?
I'm going to try to put this in a nutshell. By and large, it appears to me that any female that is worth her salt take care of herself mentally, physically, spiritually. But the problem most of the time, from my experience, and I'm a chef by trade, so I'm currently making 95. But the point is, my observance is this: there's a sense of entitlement without any inclination of what they're going to give or bring to the table, and men in general accept it. Not saying all men have everything together, and there's a certain value in having a woman that has a brain and can point out certain things that maybe you didn't see it, you know, actual helpmate. But most of the time, it's you're expected to do everything, and anything that you fail to do is turned into the world's biggest problem, and men just generally accept that.
Okay, well, let me speak about that. Let me speak on that for a moment there. What you're saying is an accurate statement. However, the real question becomes, what do we as men do about it? Because, particularly as black men, because what you're saying that they have a sense of entitlement, well, that's true. That's female nature. Although the sense of entitlement comes from the fact that they know that there are things they cannot do for themselves. They know that intrinsically and biologically. There are things they cannot do for themselves. To the extent that they become more boorish about it, now that's a different matter. But they do understand there are things they cannot do for themselves. The real question becomes, what do we as black men do about it as a group? Because one of the issues that we have, and quite frankly, it is, while it's cool and everything to see that there are some of us, I mean, like I say, both Dallas and Shreveport are both my hometowns. One's where I was born, the other one is my hometown away from hometown. And as men, as a group, the amount of acquiescence and the amount of deference that we're going to receive is going to be directly proportional to the amount of power, wealth, and influence that we control. There won't be a way around that. There is no way around that because that's what they're looking for from us. One of the things I think that we could benefit from tremendously is having all male circles. And what I mean is like what I do here at the business, patron or whatever. But at the very least, I've tried, I've been doing this for well over a decade. I've tried to mentor as many young black men as I can to let them know that this is the standard. And it's a standard not because I say so. It is the standard because this is what people will respond to. That when you have attained a certain level of power, affluence, and influence, then that's what people will respond to. You'll find yourself talking less and getting more. That's going to be the kind of thing that happens. Without that, it's just going to be very difficult. Without that, you're just going to be somebody that people can take or leave. And if you want to be of real consequence, you can't be happy with being someone that people just, take it or leave it. That's not going to be a way that you want to get through life. As far as the females are concerned, yes, there's foolishness, but once again, who's setting the trend for it? Who's setting the rules? Who's setting the standard? Those are questions I think is really important. Who's setting the standard as men?
And being that you said that, there are a group of friends of mine, brethren, we call ourselves a council, and that's basically what we do. We have a certain standard that we set, and we mentor, so to speak, young men that are somewhere between 18 and 30, because I'm in my late 40s, and try to give them certain parameters that are, okay, this is what's acceptable, this is what's not. Mediocre is not acceptable. Excellence is acceptable. Now, you will not always hit your mark, but if you're not striving to hit the mark, you never will. So, being from Shreveport and being a person like yourself that has ties in Dallas, you have the aspect of almost two totally different worlds, so to speak. And being from Cedar Grove, and I'm sure you're aware of Cedar Grove, there's a certain mind state of the average male, the black male there.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you keep that standard, you're not going to go very far. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of positive things I can say, but that negative outweighs the positive. I grew up there.
Well, certainly, and once again, that comes back to it. I mean, it's really, if I may digress for a moment. Sure, I can. It's my program. If I may digress for a moment here, what we really have is an HBCU alumni problem. Let me explain what I mean by that.
I know.
Let me explain what I mean by that. At your Ivy League universities and Columbia and University of Texas and whatnot, did Dr. Dre even go to the University of Southern California? Did he ever go to college, period? And yet he gave, $30 million to University of Southern California? And I'm like, dude, did you ever even go to school there? So when we talk about these legacies, when we talk about these alumni associations, the people who get successful, the men and women who get successful, they come back and invest in the schools. They come back and invest in the institutions. Their young folk are not scrambling for something to have. Something is provided to them. And while I can understand, while a lot of folk, especially in a place like Shreveport, some of them, that's long since been a problem, is Interstate 20 going to Dallas and whatnot, because it just gives you egress to a place where you can get twice as much immediately. But by the same token, what I have to say is that doesn't last either, because what we end up doing is investing in somebody else's instead of our own. And I think that if you want to deal with the Cedar Groves and the Cooper Roads, whatnot, and the Queensboroughs, if you really want to deal with those in a permanent way, because understand something, and you know this, one way or another, it is going to get dealt with permanently. One way or another, it is. Gentrification is hitting Shreveport just like anywhere else. And either we're going to do it and raise the standard, or we are going to sit here and watch ourselves slowly be phased out, or quickly rather.
Quick question: do you remember when they broke up the Allen Avenue project?
Oh, brother, please! I was there when they did it. They got Allendale Renaissance there now and whatnot, but I'm glad they got rid of it. I'm glad they got rid of it, but
the way they did it, the way they did it, they took a group of people that are generational people that live there, grandmama, mom, dad, sister, everybody, they live there, and they had but it was there, right there by the police station. But then all of a sudden, they had them split up in all the areas amongst people they didn't get along with. And then basically just took the land, took everything around it.
But that was going to happen. The thing is, that was going to happen anyway. That's the real problem that we run into. Even if you're on the right track, you're going to get run over if you just sit there. You cannot just sit around forever figuring that you can be a squatter and you will do nothing and everybody else is going to take care of it. Those projects didn't belong to them. The housing projects are supposed to be a temporary thing, not a generational thing. And and understand, the prophets had been preaching to them for decades that this was going to occur, that this was going to happen. And sure enough, it did. And right now, as you know and whatnot, you know what they've been doing downtown and things. We got several developments that they're looking at making, because you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to. You got a bunch of folk who moved from California to Texas. Right now, even Louisiana is looking more favorable than California is. How long will it be before all those Californians, they're going to Texas because there's no state income tax, and Texas is a great big huge state. But brother, how long is it going to be before we start seeing those Californians wash their way over finally into Louisiana and Mississippi, whether they want to or not, because they have to? How long is it going to be before we start seeing? Well, in my prediction, I figure it's going to be probably closer to 15 years, because they're going to have to fill out Texas first. But what I'm saying is, a lot of folk who are over there, when that finishes getting filled up and whatnot, we're going to see that occur. So as men, we are either going to control the landscape, or the landscape is going to control us. That's just it. In DC, Louisiana, Dallas, Detroit, wherever you are, you're either going to run the game, or the game is going to run you. That's just the way it is. You're going to run the game, or the game is going to run you. I would like to see more of us control that conversation ourselves. Thank you very much for giving us a phone call tonight. Please do give us a call again. A little bit of inside baseball for you all there and everything. But as men, I want us to be very, very clear about this. There are metaphors that have been used. And I'm very glad we got to talk about this tonight. There are metaphors that have been used. Every time I do one of these, a six-figure club episode, there's always some jackass who tries to get in the comments section talking about six figures is not that much. Coming from a Negro who makes low five figures. Maybe even four figures. As a black man in America, no, that's not a minor thing. In an environment where they're like, we got all the rules set up to make sure that doesn't happen for you. So if it does happen for you, they're like, oh, damn, we got to go back and rework the formula because one of y'all snuck through. But it's a metaphor. Because if you can make 100,000, you can make 200,000. Let's be very, very clear. If you can make $1, you can make $2. Well, if you can make $100,000, you can make $200,000. These are metaphors. It's a metaphor for you're not struggling. It's a metaphor for you are not, in a financially precarious situation. If you are, it's self-inflicted. But it's also not going to be that difficult to get out. If you're making $200,000 a year, it's not going to be that difficult to get out unless you've just done some horrendously irresponsible things. But it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor the same way you say $1 million. $1 million simply is a metaphor for unlimited. Most people can't even wrap their minds around what $1 million is. And it's important that we understand what those things mean. Fellas, our respect as men is going to be measured by our ability to deliver unlimited resourcefulness. You don't have to like it. That's just the reality. You don't have to agree. That's just the truth. Our value is going to be measured directly against our ability to provide unlimited resourcefulness. The more limited our resourcefulness is, the less value we're going to have, the less respect we're going to have. That's just it. You know why? Because that is what you are competing against as a man. That's what you're competing against as a man. You understand that? You are going to have to do that because as a man, that is what competition is. Competition, understand, the men that we're competing against, Asians, whites, Latinos, that's where they are. That's where they're going. I posted a story today on my Facebook that said that Elon Musk has passed Jeff Bezos. Jeff, I'm Cuban, Puerto Rican, and so I left my white wife for a Latina mistress, Bezos. Yeah. I put up, there was a story that I posted here today where it says Elon Musk has passed Jeff Bezos. We spent our whole lives talking about Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. Now we're talking about Elon. Now we figured that Jeff Bezos' position was pretty damn secure, and man, he got knocked off within a few years. Fellas, this is what we're competing against. This is what everybody sees, and then they come and take a look at us. Having a few dudes in the NBA, they ain't gonna cut it. They ain't gonna cut it. We are going to have to understand that that's the metric that is being used. You are not gonna get respected as a man who's struggling. You're not. You're not. You're not going to be respected by women, but more importantly, you're not going to be respected by other men. The other men who would work with you and collaborate with you, they are not going to respect you in your struggle. They're not going to sit there and hold out a candle for you in your struggle. They're not going to do that. You are not going to be able to get people to sit up here and take a look at you and have sympathy. As men, you got to understand that. Call it fair, call it unfair, call it whatever you want to. That's the standard you're held to. You're not going to get all of this leeway. We are expected to excel. I know a lot of you, that's a hard thing for you to hear because you're like, well, damn, nobody ever taught me how. I don't know anything about excelling. Man, if I can just get me a job at the tire plant, I'll be okay. Fellas, let's just be very, very clear. I called this the peak value matrix, but it doesn't really have any, it doesn't have to do with sex. This is how valuable you are to other people. And how valuable you are to other people is going to directly influence how much they give a damn that you're there, being valuable. You have got to have a mindset that says, I need to increase my value. I need to increase my worth. That is the metric I judge myself by. And furthermore, that's the only metric you want to be judged by. You don't need to be judged by niceness. What the hell is niceness? You don't want to be judged by that. You don't want to be judged by congeniality. You don't want to be judged by, how arousing you are. You don't want to be judged by that. You want this to be a game where you are judged by the amount of value that you deliver. You want those to be the rules of the road. Because you see, that's where real meets real. That's where you put all the bull crap to the side. You said women don't respect nice men. That's because men have been nice to them their whole lives. They take nice men for granted. Nice people are taken for granted. They like you. You worry so much about being liked that you forget and dismiss altogether the need to be respected. These are brand new concepts some of you are being introduced here to tonight. You've been taught, a lot of you, if you're raised by single mothers, your mothers didn't really know how to raise children. They raised you like their little friend. A father isn't going to raise you like their little friend. He's going to raise you as a person who's supposed to be a fully functional, active, leading, assertive adult. Leading adults don't get liked, or they don't focus on being liked. They don't prioritize being liked. They prioritize being respected. They prioritize being respected. I don't want to get too far off base right now, but there was a young woman who got herself killed at the Capitol building yesterday. She was there with a bunch of Trump supporters. They busted in the front doors like they were storming the Bastille. Look it up. And they had gotten inside the Capitol building of the United States. They were roaming through the halls, but they got to one part where they were going to get to one of the more secure areas. And they were busted out the glass and the doors, and they were busting through and whatnot. And at that point, if you all have seen the pictures, they had the pictures of the Capitol Hill police with their guns pointing at the doors. Now, that situation was different because we all saw, well, you should have seen the video of the brother. There's a black male, and as they were coming up the steps, all he had was a baton. So he's supposed to be stopping all these hundreds of people with a damn baton. But when they got to the inner sanctum, the Capitol Hill police had their guns. And them folks might have thought those guns were for show. No, the guns were for real. And the orders were, if they breach these doors, open fire. Like China and Tiananmen Square. Like Muammar Gaddafi, like, what's his name, Bashir in Syria. They didn't understand. The first police that you ran into with the batons, their orders were to use their batons to try to crowd control. The guys with the guns, their orders were this far and no farther. If anyone attempts to breach this point, you are to defend it with your life. I bring that up to you because I want you to understand nobody else tried to bust through that door after she got shot. They didn't take it as their goal to bust through the door after she got shot. After she got shot, they had some respect for those doors. It's not about being liked. Damn being liked. It's about being respected. It is about understanding that your presence will be respected. It is about understanding that you are not here to make friends. You are here to make progress. You are here to make change. You are not here to make friends. This is a foreign concept to some people. Sitting around talking about being liked, There is no metric for being liked. I can't tell if people like you, and even if they do, I can't spend it. It has no benefit to anybody. That's a damn symbolic victory. Being liked by people is symbolic. It's not literal. It's not physical. There is no physical way to measure how much people like you. We keep focusing on symbolic gestures. Damn symbolism. Damn symbolism. Understand that as a man, you don't worry about being liked. You worry about being respected. And our ability to take command of the resources to be able to, the reason why you want to have a good income is so that you can reward your friends and punish your enemies. That's the reason for it. You want to be able to reward your friends and punish your adversaries. You can't reward anybody if you're struggling. You don't have the ability to do that. You can't reward anyone if you're out here struggling. If you can't keep yourself afloat, you can't provide any sort of reward to the people who've done your bidding. See, when you sit around and feed yourself the lie and the nonsense that being liked is a form of currency, then you start telling yourself that, well, I don't have to actually produce anything tangible. People will just cooperate with me because they likes me. That is a childish delusion. You want people to do what you want because you're respected. You want them to do your bidding because they understand there are rewards if they do. And there are penalties if they don't. Starting with the penalty of no longer having access to your resources. You want to be that person. That's the level we want to be operating at. Let me see if I can get one more phone call here. Let me get caller from area code 612. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
60 seconds.
Turn off your speakers.
This is Stan from Minneapolis.
Stan from Minneapolis. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say that, I support you and all, but as far as you can be going with these old niggas, kick them out of the public housing, and put them out on the street, man, that scares the hell out of me.
Why?
Because I don't want to. Because I'm in my 60s. I'm retired, and I don't know if I could survive being out on the streets. I'm much more going. I'm much more rather to go with the get along, to let what's going on, just happen. Because some of the stuff you're saying, it's kind of, I find it kind of radical, even though I agree with most of everything you say.
Okay, I don't understand. What is so radical about it? Maybe you can explain that to me.
Because most countries, they believe in supporting their senior citizens. And when you come out saying, oh, those old niggas, they ain't nothing, just throw them out on the street. I find it a bit radical.
Okay. Let me find out something here. Do you believe that a man has an obligation to produce?
That's his nature. That's what men do. They produce.
Well, no, that is not necessarily what men do, actually. No, that is not necessarily what they do. So I'm asking you, do you believe that men have an obligation and it is incumbent on them to produce?
Produce for their wife? they have an obligation to produce for their children, seeing that their children, they have food, clothing, and shelter.
Okay, anything or anyone beyond that?
Keep up, take care of your family first. And that's what I believe a man has an obligation to do, is to see that his family has food, seeing that his family has shelter, and seeing that his family has clothing.
Okay, and let me find out here, because what you were saying was that you took exception or whatever to what I was saying about that. Do you feel that you met that standard, the one that you just articulated?
Well, no, because I don't have a family.
Okay, well, there's...
I mean, as far as my house is concerned, my house has food, they have clothing, and they have shelter.
Okay.
As far as my house, you want to come into my house,
but here's the issue.
You got that.
Here's the issue. You're in your 60s. Do you have any kids?
No.
Okay.
I mean, none that I know of.
Okay.
Because I tell you, I was a young fool. I was a musician. I used to travel across the country.
Okay,
I had sex with so many women.
We'll come back. We'll come back to the foibles of your youth here some other time. But here's the real thing. The real thing is, so what you're saying is you never actually produced for anyone. And all that sex you was having and all them trumpets you were blowing on and all that traveling you did. And right now, basically, you're basically a poor old man who is worried that he could lose it all tomorrow. And what I'm saying is that's a sad commentary on your life. That you've lived for 6 decades.
Yeah. It is a sad commentary on my life,
sir.
Because when I was doing all that,
I'm gonna do the talking here for a moment. You've already prattled on. That's a sad commentary on your life, because here's the issue. And I was gonna say this a different way, but you know what? I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say it a different way. I'm gonna say this. I'm going to say this in the best manner in which I can, and I hope it'll be received that way. That I think that you've got to be a pretty piss poor ass individual to have lived 6 damn years and cannot master this socioeconomic system after 6 damn decades of living. How long do you need? How much more time do you need to be able to figure out something as simple as a free market system of make yourself more valuable after 6 decades? Do you realize the only way a person couldn't have this mastered after 6 decades is if that nigga just ain't trying?
Nah, because the black community has not had.
What's your skill?
What the other
what
brother,
is your
I'm
skill?
not going to mention his name.
I don't want to mention his name. What's your skill?
You.
What is your skill?
My skill, I got skills, man. I'm a guitar player, and I did it okay. But beyond that, I studied computers. I used to work for Prudential Insurance Company, and I made that big money. You talk about those 6 digits.
If you were okay, sir, clearly it didn't work for you as well as you're trying to pass it off, because right now you are giving broke nigga excuses and broke nigga worries is what you got. So very clearly it didn't work out that way. You know what it really is? What it really is you were one of the, before we had the dudes sagging their pants, you're one of them old niggas from the 70s with the damn feather cap and the aquarium boots and all that old mess right there. And what you think has gotten you off.
About my platform shoes?
Yes, what you think has gotten you off the hook is the fact you tell yourself, well, if I don't have any kids or anything like that, I'm not accountable. No, you're accountable to the rest of us. You're accountable to the rest of us. If you haven't been a benefit, even if you don't have biological children, I don't have biological children, and I have never let that be an excuse for me not to be of greater value to other people's children. I set up the Black channel specifically because old niggas like you didn't build nothing that was ready-made for people like me when we got there. So I understood what y'all didn't do, but I didn't just sit back and do nothing. I got up and said, you know what? I'm going to see if make sure the next generation has more than I did. I didn't let your laziness and lack of productivity become my excuse to do nothing. And now I've got young Black folk out here. They got their CDLs, they got their certifications. I'm working on an IT workshop for them, which hopefully we'll be able to do next week, assuming that Trump's people don't get even more crunk up than they already are. I haven't let that be my excuse. And I don't have any biological children either. So when I criticize you, I do it from a position of, pardon the expression, authority. Because I don't have any biological children, and yet I'm being a hell of a whole lot more useful, valuable, and productive to these young kids today than you've ever been. If you disappeared tomorrow morning, who would notice?
I don't know.
And
I ain't expecting too much because the only thing I look out for is my food and clothing and shelter, and that's it.
Let that be your epitaph. If he disappeared tomorrow morning, I don't know who'd miss me. I don't know. And let that be your epitaph. That is a sad commentary on you as a person. That if you died tomorrow, nobody's life would be the lesser for it. Nobody would be saying, damn, I needed him. No one would be saying that. Very interesting. That's a sad commentary.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know this is a sad commentary, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not by myself. A lot of brothers, they need trauma therapy. You know, 'cause I was raised by one of them Black women who told me that all you need to do is get a bottle of wine and wash dishes and you'll be all right. You know, a lot of Black men need therapy, and that's one of the reasons, you know, like during the 60s and 70s, I fell into that crack. I was a crackhead.
Well, thank you. At least now we got that out the way. So just tell the damn truth. You were out there whining and dining. I was a musician. It was wine, woman, and song. And when it was time to produce, you pissed away all the damn wealth is what you did. Now, when you were young and could chase some skirts, that's what you were doing. And I want you to understand that you are precisely the type of old nigga that I've spent my life attempting to erase from our people. Because you were young and irresponsible, and now you're just old. You were young and useless, now you're old and useless. And sir, if I could walk up there to Minneapolis tonight and kick the cane out from under your ass and throw your and pour the Metamucil all over your head, I'd be doing it. Because there are some young Black people today whose lives are lesser because you weren't useful to yourself and you're not useful to anybody else. As Marcus Garvey said, we're going to have to leave a bunch of Black folk here in America. We can't take them to Africa because they were useless in America and they'll just be useless over there. He's 60-something years old, and he hasn't progressed one bit in 6 decades. My 2 nephews have more to offer the world than you.
I kind of doubt that, man, because
I do,
working, man.
My 2 nephews ain't afraid to get. My 2 nephews don't give a damn about whether the government gives them a stimulus check or not. You are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have to be supported.
Ain't got to do That's the problem.
If you're on a mission,
a grown ass, elderly ass man talking about I got to be supported. Nigga, supported by who? Who are you expecting to support you at 60-something years old?
Oh man, let me tell you something, man. When I was in my 20s, I was on the black thing. My rap was on the black. It was on the yes, I see him body and soul. He stole the thing in my black gold. Now he sold, I used to do the rap. I'm one of the innovators in this shit. I don't know how it became this slut thing, but I was always into good music.
Okay, and that benefits the rest of us. How, Juke Joint James?
He can never understand the new black man that slow sees every day on the subway. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, and this is why I hope the Proud Boys come to your house and do the damn two-step all over this nigga. The hell is he talking about? My man Kinstrumental. Oh, now where are all the black male hating hoes who like to sit around and tell me that I'm too hard on black women? Y'all should be here to tell me I'm too hard on these old folks now, right? Shouldn't you be, Jason? You shouldn't be so hard on these old men's. Some of you with your daddy issues, please seek therapy and drink bleach while you're walking into their office. Oh no, I don't have any respect for some old ass bastard sitting up here all these decades later. I got to clean up your damn mess. I don't have any children. Yeah, I'm so glad that there wasn't a chick out there dumb enough to let you impregnate her. Fellas, if you don't get your weight up, I just want you to understand, if you don't get your weight up, this gonna be you. This will be you, and a lot of you, you are devastated, broken, and defeated, and you're okay with this being you. I want to talk to the fellas who they don't want to be this. They want to be respected. They want to be able to walk down the street and hold their heads up. They want to be the person that other people come to first. You want to be respected by the men, the women, the children, your family, the clergy, the schools, the establishment, the community, the planet. You want to be respected, but you cannot be respected without accomplishment, without achievement, without resources. That dude can sit up here and play his damn banjo and ride from one state to the other by hitching a ride on a train boxcar. All he can sit up here and do is, he's an old ass man, male, sitting up here talking about what he used to do. Back in the day, I used to play my guitar, and man, I used to have sex with a whole bunch of women. Okay, and what do you have to show for it? Well, I hope somebody can give me a few dollars to get this prescription filled. If I saw him attempting to take the COVID vaccine, I'd take one of those bottles of Ensure, put it in a sock, swing it around like Thor's hammer Mjolnir, pop him across the side of the doggone head, and throw his syringe into the nearest sewer. You get out here and make it on your own. We got enough dead weight. I started the Black Channel and the business so that we can have brutally frank discussions about this. No, I can't really advise these young black men out here to come to you old dudes. If y'all knew what the hell you were doing, we wouldn't be in this situation. You all want to sit up here and talk crap about Ty tonight? You want to talk about him? Let me tell you who laid the damn bricks. Let me tell you about who paved the damn road for him. That it's all about him. So a bunch of y'all out here need to be looking at your mamas and your daddies. You need to be taking a look at these old folk you telling me I need to be respecting. Understand, they taught Ty. Ty didn't wake up one day acting like this. He didn't just wake up one day off code like this. He was taught that. The same way Tiger Woods was taught by Earl Woods to be off code and screwed up as hell. Tiger didn't teach himself that. Tiger was indoctrinated in that nonsense. Yeah, it was a bunch of crazy ass old niggas back in the day sitting up here dressing. They dressed like this back then. Today they dress a little bit differently, but the goal was the same. They wasn't building nothing. They wasn't building nothing. And the only thing standing between us and utter damn chaos are the black men who ain't gonna take it. Don't you tell me a damn thing about respecting the elderly. The elderly got us in this mess. I have young black person after young black person after young black person contacting me, blowing my email up, blowing up my DMs because there's nobody in their family who are the elders or the olders able to help them do a damn thing. If they can't get through to me, it ain't gonna happen. And I'm looking around up there, and what he say? He's in Minneapolis. No wonder George Floyd could get killed and the young black folks got to take to the streets themselves. These what the old niggas on. All he can talk about is a bunch of petty ass stuff he was doing when he was 22 years old. I was a musician. I played the damn guitar. I went from state to state. I was chasing the white women's. I was doing it big back then. All right, nigga, you didn't even make it halfway through life. How'd that turn out for you? Oh, brother, can you spare a dime? Hell no, I can't spare a dime. But if I could, I would kick you in the damn Achilles tendons with these Timberlands. Grab his hover round, knock it over in the middle of the produce aisle at Publix. Take the damn cord off the battery and tell him, here, climb your ass back up. With all these young people out here that I'm having to rehabilitate because old niggas like this didn't do nothing. We don't need another group of old niggas sitting up here telling about what they used to do back in the day, the fly stuff they used to do back in the day. Here you are at 60-something years old and you can't do a damn thing for yourself, much less anybody else. All you have are a bunch of damn wasted years. And you couldn't at least gather together at least enough of them hoes you was sleeping with back in the day for them to produce something for you? You couldn't even do that. Jason, you too hard on us. Man, look here. If it was up to me, I would drag him by his damn corduroy pants, his plaid leisure jacket and his corduroy pants. I'd drag his old ass straight up out of that Section 8 apartment he's in. Cut up his medical prescriptions. Cut up his bus pass. Now you really messed up in the game. And tell him you get out here and struggle like you got these young folk out here struggling. I do programs like I do. The business isn't here to be salacious. Let me get this mess off my screen. The business isn't here to be salacious, people. It's not here to be salacious. This is not entertainment. I told you all, I'm not talking about dating. I'm talking about power dynamics. And whether you are driven by yourself, women, competition, socioeconomics, the bottom line is you are competing. Dr. Claude Anderson has taught this for decades. You are competing, whether you wish to or not. You're competing. You're competing. And you'll either compete at a high level or you will get decimated. But that's it. And I started the business so that we can have brutally frank discussions about the nuts and bolts of what it means to be competitive. That is the essence of power dynamics. And how well you're mastering it. We're not talking about women for the sake of talking about women. I'm talking about women because women, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, and I don't give a damn if you believe it or not, whether you like it or not, women are the metric by which you can immediately measure what type of man you are and whether you are succeeding. That's the point. I can tell you exactly what kind of man you are and exactly how competitive you are by looking at your women. I can immediately, instantly tell you that. All I gotta do is talk to her for 5 good seconds and I will immediately be able to tell you at what level you are competing and if you are succeeding. That is it. Women are an outrageously reliable metric. Why? Because their survival depends upon the quality of male that they are able to attract and retain. Her ability to survive is going to be directly dependent upon that. So women are an incredibly reliable metric. Incredibly reliable for if a man is not producing. You know what else is also another incredibly reliable metric? Your children. You know what else is? Men of other races. Those 3 things are the single most reliable metrics you'll ever have. You know why? Because they're not open to interpretation or negotiation. I know I'm hurting a lot of damn feelings right now. It is what it is. When a woman realizes that her survival depends upon the quality of man she's with, then she's gonna let you know real damn quick, ooh, hell, you're not producing. If I sit here with you, I'm gonna die. So I better do something else. And then you can start complaining about the male she chooses. Maybe she doesn't choose the best ones, but she's going to make some type of effort. That old ass bastard who was on the phone, all he had were a bunch of drooling, fat, sloppy, lime green suit wearing, mothball smelling broads that he was fooling around with for 30 or 40 years before the erectile dysfunction set in. Now he's morbidly obese with his damn guitar sitting in the corner with the 3 broken strings on it because he can't get them fixed. And he's one of these old niggas likes to sit on the stoop of the corner and wave his finger at the young folk and try to regale them and tell them respect his gray hairs. No, niggas, they need to respect your accomplishments. But you don't have any, so you're telling them, well, just respect the fact that I've lived long enough to get old. Yeah, but it was a miserable 65 years and a useless 65 years. There's nothing to respect about that. I can't respect you for getting old. I can't respect you for getting old. Everybody's going to get old if they breathe long enough. What did you produce? Besides a bunch of excuses. I created the business because it was necessary for black men to be able to get together and speak about this kind of thing. It was necessary for us to be able to speak about this. To let each other know that there is a standard. To let you know that it's not about getting 6 figures because you love money. It's about 6 figures or more because that is an accurate measurement of whether or not you're struggling. That is an accurate measurement and an accurate metric about whether or not you're producing at the highest level you can be. That is an accurate metric upon which you are able to accurately ensure, pardon the expression, that you are doing better than your fathers. That was why I created the business. I don't give a damn about your dating life. You can date, you cannot date, whichever you choose. It's up to you. But you are not powerful or resourceful until you have the option. You're not powerful or resourceful until you have the option. Let's just be very, very clear about that. If your options in women look like this, then I know what your finances look like. If this is the quality of woman who is eligible or seeking your protection and providing, if your woman is sloppy, your finances are sloppy, your production is sloppy, your competence is sloppy. That's the bottom line. I can immediately see the quality of man you are by the woman. Immediately. Fellas, you got a choice to make tonight. You want to be some old man sitting up here talking about all the petty little minor things you used to do 40 years old, or do you want to be living a life where you are in charge of it from the cradle to the grave? Those are your choices. If you are new here to the business, we would like to welcome you to the program that set the foundation upon which all of these other so-called red pill, high value, MGTOW, alpha male, and all the rest of them based all their philosophies off of. We laid the foundation. You'll be hearing them all say some version of what I said tonight, tomorrow, and the next day and the next week, but you heard it first here. If you haven't clicked that red subscribe button, go ahead and do so now, and then click that yellow notification bell and make sure you've chosen all notifications. YouTube does have us under a bit of a shadow ban, but make sure you click the subscribe button so that we can keep you counted among that number. I'm going to be looking at another six-figure club broadcast here. Going to see about choosing another area to do that in, so be on the lookout for that as well. We want to be a better example about these kinds of things. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, handle your business, or your business will handle you.